Hi team. Good morning and good evening all. So let's get started, guys. Okay. So actually last week I was supposed to maybe like engage this with you guys, right? Which was not able to be completed because of some unexpected situation that happened for me. So I know like we got a couple of break in our this interview preparation on covering certain other items like the performance tuning or the CICD, all this what you are supposed to learn. So the plan I have is maybe like we have something related to the high and the high performance tuning side. We still have something pending, and in the general interview discussion, what we were supposed to do, right? There we had some sort of like things pending, like how do we maybe like answer some of the questions related to the challenges faced and all. So what I'm planning to do here is I can provide you as a kind of an offline recording for all this. So you guys can go through in your own time, right? Rather than we keep extend this evening meet. So you can just proactively learn this at your own time. So in that aspect, if you consider, I'm going to cover predominantly further in the classroom session, like how we are engaging currently. I'm going to cover a couple of things like related to maybe the reusable frameworks or data governance, security, some data like architectures. And very importantly, I'm going to cover or I'm going to have a separate session engaged for this analytical and windowing queries and all. And apart from that, some sort of like automation techniques. This is what I'm planning to engage with you guys. And very importantly, the performance tuning of Spark and PySpark we are going to learn. That is very importantly I want to engage with you guys. Maybe in the upcoming week we will give priority for that one first. Okay, so today what is the plan is we are going to discuss about the CICD. Okay, so let's go and discuss about that part right now. We'll start with the CICD part. You all heard about this, maybe something called DEVOPS, or in the name of CICD, in the name of like continuous integration, continuous deployment, or continuous development. All this you might have heard actually. I'm going to cover with a comprehensive content what I have over here, starting from maybe like altogether if I say, okay, so somebody went on not muted. Okay, so altogether we are going to see the continuous integration and the continuous delivery or deployment used in the DevOps practices, where predominantly a data engineer has to know what. That is what I'm planning to cover. I'm not going to cover the entire DevOps. DevOps itself is a big path to learn, actually, big ocean to learn, comprised of lot of tools and technologies. But whereas particularly one very important interview question asked in the interview is all about, hey, tell me about your software development lifecycle, or tell me about how do you take the code from the, or how do you get the requirements till the productionization, what do you perform? How do you follow the steps to achieve that? That could be a potential interview question asked to understand whether we have really productionized certain things in the big data platform or in any of the platform that we are working, right? This is common for everybody, like who are working in the development environment might be using some of these tools and the components what we are going to discuss. Whoever did not work in the development platform, right? Or did not get a chance to use this kind of DevOps tools or the CICD tools, might be using maybe a direct mechanism to push the code. Like for example, I develop a code in my Linux machine. I want to, I'm developing a code in my Windows machine. I want to deploy that code in the production Linux server or production Windows server. What I do, I just directly go and create a remote connection, remote desktop connection. I'll go and create by going into the start menu. I'll go and open a WinSCP kind of tool, and I'll go and create a connection between the server and my local machine, and I push the code directly to the server. This is a very direct mechanism what people follows. So the requirement is very direct, guys. What I'm trying to talk here is, I'm a developer. Okay, I wanted to, being a developer or an architect or anybody, I'm a developer, wanted to get some work in a formal way, like in a formal or in an informal way. Let's consider an informal way. Okay, Without using any of the tool, the people are still working. Even in our organization, we work. I work actually. Or in a formal way also I work. Like we have both opportunities of working. The formal way also we used to work. What is an informal way and what is a formal way we'll discuss. It depends upon the project to project, team to team. Like how much certain teams are putting a constraint to work in a formal way. We work in a formal way following all the tools and techniques to complete the entire life cycle of our development. Entire SDLC life cycle will be followed with certain tools. In a proper fashion we may do, or in an informal way, just like that we get a requirement, we just fulfill that requirement without having the Confluence page created or a Jira story created or uploading of code to the GitHub, or without using any CICD pipeline. We just go and simply deploy the code into production. Like some informal way of in the end-to-end life cycle of the development also can happen in the organizations. Little example is I used to face that. I see a couple of team in our organization itself will do an informal way of entire end-to-end development until and otherwise if the organization stresses to go and follow some mechanism, some methodology. Every organization will support with certain tools for enabling the development till the operations practices. What is DevOps represents? The development till operations. I'm doing development until I make it operationalized. Right? I can use an informal mechanism or a formal mechanism. Okay, in an informal way, what I will do, I'm a developer, right? I wanted to get some work actually. I'll be getting some work from somebody. So my client or my lead or my clients may allocate some work to us, provide or allocate some work to us, to the developer basically. So what the developer will do, the developer will start understand the documentation. Maybe the assignment of the work will happen through mails, right? Mostly, or through the chats also, like ad hoc work, just like that work and all. Sometime in an informal way, the work will be given to us. So I will be getting the work from the clients or from the leads or from my managers, right? To start work on certain things, which will not go with any formal way actually, because especially in the big data side, we don't have a formal definition of what is supposed to be done. Based on the quick requirement, we may have to do some activities. In that case and all, we can't ask them to provide a formal documentation, formal design documents, formal tools, all the cycle and all, we can't ask them to follow. Like the cycle could be an SDLC cycle, software development life cycle, basically. Like whether you use a agile model, or a Scrum model, or a rapid development model, or a waterfall model, or a V model. Any model we can use for enabling the software development lifecycle. Like if you remember, we were discussing about it, like Agile or Scrum or RAD, rapid application development model, or waterfall model, which is outdated, or V model, which is also a bit outdated. And the very important model that is followed in the market currently is the Agile model. Agile development model, we used to call it as. Okay. So the first answer for the interview question, if an interviewer asks, right, what you will expect from a data engineer, very simply. Hey, what model of SDLC you are following? This could be a direct or an indirect question. Like how do you do the entire end-to-end development till productionization, like if they ask? Or how do you take your code to production if they ask? You are going to say what? The SDLC model, what we follow is an agile model. What is an agile model is all about? I'm talking as an interview question itself. Like what SDLC model, or how you are productionizing the end-to-end development activities or development code. Like this, if a question is asked, in any way they ask this question, in any jargons they can put and ask this question. The first answer you are going to say is the SDLC model what we follow is going to be an agile model. That's the first answer you are going to say. Maybe there are different types of models are available, but we are following agile model. What is the agile model represents? Daily we have daily stand-up calls we will have. in the morning and evening. For morning for assigning the work, for getting work assigned, or discuss about the work what we are going to do. In the evening, if we have any questions or doubts or challenges or showstoppers, like something is stopping me further to this development, I need this. Like all this will be discussed in the evening time. So you can explain it as a story like this either. Daily stand-up call will have, that is what you can mention. The daily stand-up calls will be engaged in the agile development model. And in the agile development, there is a concept called sprints. Sprints means the release cycle. So release cycle, all these stand-up calls and everything is for releasing a product, releasing the code into production. So release cycle could be bi-weekly. Basically, this is what the methodology followed. Bi-weekly with the sprints created, or bi-weekly sprints will be created. We call it as a sprints. Sprints means releases. Bi-weekly sprints will be created with different story points. What is story points? The work that is allocated in the form of story will be allocated. Like I have to get the data from this source. I have to do this curation activity. I have to send the data, load the data to this target. I have to generate the visualization to produce this output to the consumers. Like I have to follow different story points on top of it. So the sprints will be created as bi-weekly sprints with different story points created, can be ranging from 3 or 5 or 12 story points. This is the numbers what used in organization to organization. It may vary. Each and every story point has the activity what you are going to perform, the action what you are going to take for completing a particular work. Okay, like this, everybody will be assigned with a couple of story points or a couple of tickets. We used to call it as Jira stories. We used to call it as Jira stories. We used to call it as Jira story points has been created for us, where I am working on that for the next 2 weeks later sprint. I am working now to get this productionized like this, I will say. If the work is not completed, right, or if the work is can be moved to a backlog, it can be moved. The backlog work also can be I can be engaged. Like whichever is not completed, we'll move to the backlog. We'll do it in a later point of time. Like we'll give the priority for certain works, right? All this and all will happen. So this is the work of somebody called a Scrum Master or an Agile coach. We used to call them as a person called a Scrum Master or an Agile coach can engage this activity. He will be or he or she will be sitting in the call, and they will be updating our information by saying, hey, Irfan, tell me about your work, what you are doing. They'll go and update in the Jira story saying like, okay, you completed or it is pending, it has some requirement. They'll go and tag the respective people where the mail will be sent to them saying like, hey, you have been asked with this so-and-so question. Can you help Irfan providing this information like this and all? The Agile coach or the Scrum Master who will play a project management activity role and go and maybe your lead can do that, or your manager can do that, or there is a separate PMO person will be there to take care of this activity. And on a daily basis, we'll be doing this activity of understanding where we are with the sprint, how we are working for the sprint to get it deployed in the production. These are all some theoretical aspects of how we get the work, how the work is getting engaged in an organization. We do the development, right? We do all the activities with respect to the development. Apart from that, we participate in these calls and all. The calls are going to be engaged by certain people, and I'll be following the Agile model. Agile and Scrum are same, I could say in that way, rather, or I could say Agile and Scrum. Scrum or Agile we can call interchangeably. Daily stand-up calls we'll have. We'll have the release cycle, bi-weekly release cycle with the sprints created. Bi-weekly sprints will be created. That is nothing but releases with different Jira story points created. Jira tickets will be created. Assigned with story points. Story points means what is the work that I'm going to do. The work breakdown structure we used to call it as work breakdown structure. WBS we used to call it in the other terminology, in the other project management terminology. Leave all this. Now, this is the formal way where we engage the SDLC lifecycle in the organizations. But in an informal way, if we are going to do some work, for example, a week ago, my manager called me and told saying like my director called me and told saying like, hey, Irfan, we have an urgent requirement, urgent business critical requirement we have. Something called, we have to reduce the churn for our organization. Churn means what? The number of customers who are all being with us is going out because of some reason. We don't know the reason behind it. So we have to get it reduced. We have to retain our existing customer. Like this. Our, I mean, like my director wanted me to work on that project, but he did not give me any requirement out of it. He was telling Irfan, some way you have to analyze and get the churn reduced. For the organization level, we have to contribute from our team to do that. It's an organizational goal. Organization have set. Maybe any other priority work you have, even you can just deprioritize that. This is our top priority for now. Like this, he was calling me last Friday, not this Friday, last Friday, and informing me. I was not working for the past 4 days. That means until Thursday. So I was not able to engage in any of that activity so far. Friday only, I just got some understanding of what I'm supposed to do. From Monday onwards, I had to start work on that completely because of some mishappening what I had in the last week. But this could be an informal work. I'm really speaking. I'm not telling for sake of this understanding. Informal work I got. So in that informal work, what I may be doing, right? I may go and get some mails or chats or some calls, ad hoc calls I'll be attending. I'll play a role of a developer, or here I'm playing a role of a data analyst because I want to analyze the data. I'm going to play a role of a data analyst, not a developer role. I don't have much development to do here. I have to go and analyze different tables, different data. Why the customers are, what are the reason behind the customers are going out of the business. I'm going to do a lot of different angle of data understanding, data mining I'm going to do. The data analysis I'm going to do, or I'm going to help the data scientist with the data that they wanted. So I'm going to do a collaborative data analytics to reduce the churn that is being incurred by our organization. Churn means customer churn analysis is one of the important project in every organization you can consider. Every organization has customers, every business has customers, every customers wanted to be retained. Any of the business don't wanted to leave their customers. So the same thing applicable for us also. And I'm going to start work on that. How I will start work, I'll tell you guys over here. So I'll be playing a role of a data analyst or a developer, right? I'll get some ad hoc requirements through the mails or chats or through some ad hoc calls. Anything it could be. Ad hoc calls we used to call it as, right? No one will be there to help anybody else because everybody are new to this. They wanted to get this entire analytical work, analysis work we are supposed to do. Based on the data, we are going to speak with the data. I'm going to speak with the data to get some pattern revealed out of it. And I'm going to take this pattern to the other business teams and all to understand whether the pattern, whatever I identified, is valuable or not. It's a valuable pattern, or it's I had a misunderstanding here. Like this, I'm going to do an iteration with the team on a regular basis. This is what the work I am supposed to do. For example, let's assume I have to provide some data to some of my business team. Say they can take the data further for analysis, further for model application or analysis purpose. So the requirement will be coming through calls or through chats or mails to me. I'm going to play a role of a developer or a data analyst. I'm going to pull the data or extract the data. And I'm going to apply some sort of like a filtration of which are all the data that is applicable for churn, which are all the data that is more applicable for churn. Those data alone I'm going to filter. I'm not going to filter all the data. And I'm not going to send all the data to the consumer. And some development I'm doing here. Some sort of like data extraction, filtration, or curation and all I'm doing here. This is a kind of an activity what I altogether do. And this development, this developed data, or this developed a pipeline for extracting the data what my customer wanted. I'm going to take it into production. So what I'll do, I'll develop a Spark program or a BigQuery program or a BigQuery query or a Hive query or something like that I'm going to build. And I'm going to take it into next level. What I'll do, I'll just go and maybe like put it into, take this code into, I develop the code in my Windows machine or in my Edge node, right? This code, I'm going to convert it into .HQL or .SQL or .py. Any one of the code base, I will go and convert this. And I'll pass this code to the next level. That is, I'm going to place this code or upload the code. Maybe after doing all the testing and everything. I do testing, validation, QA, needed. If needed, I'll do validation, QA, or review, code review, or QA, or testing. Everything I'll be undergoing with all this. Once all are good, once I get some UAT acceptance also, then I'll upload this code to maybe like some server, maybe into the development server, upload the code to the dev server. I'll do this activity. Once the code is uploaded to the dev server, I'll inform the production support team or production deployment team to take the code from the dev server and move it to the production deployment team will move the code to the production. And I'll give some document, like we call that as a kind of a maybe release document. The production support team will move the code to the production, and using the release document, the prod deployment team use the release document and maybe like start the code to run on a defined schedule. Here I'm just doing in an informal way, just like that. If I got a requirement, I wanted to fulfill this requirement on the fly, I may just follow all this methodology to get my code into production by any cost, at any cost. This is the way even things are happening in the organizations. Even I am going to do this in the another 2 weeks of time. Definitely I'm going to follow this mechanism because nothing is formal here. Like there is no Jira stories created. What is Jira story? There is no Confluence page created. What is Confluence page? I'm going to talk with you guys. What is, I'm not going to upload this code into GitHub because it's an ad hoc code. I'm just going to iterate it. Maybe this code might not be a final code. After I deploy it and I schedule this program to run on a daily basis to generate and send the data, which is possibly a data which can be responsible for making my customer churned out. But that has to be concluded by my next set of team who is going to consume this data. They are going to analyze this data further and they are going to conclude saying, Irfan, you filtered this data also. You don't filter the data, open the data for us. Like this, they will ask. So again, I follow the same mechanism. In the next day call, ad hoc call, they'll say, Irfan, I think like you have filtered this kind of data, this kind of customer data also, but we want those kind of customers also. High profile customers also we wanted because in the high profile side only the customers are more fully churning out. Like this, they may ask anything to apply in the curation side or in the filtration side. Or they may say you extracted the data from XYZ system. We wanted the data from ABC system also. Can you provide that data also? Like anything they can ask. So I can't ask them to follow a mechanism here, like saying, hey, go and put the request in the Confluence page, go and create some beautiful design document in the Confluence page, go and like create a Jira tickets and assign it to me and give me some time, like 1 week of time or 10 days of time. You go and put the timeline. All this I can't tell to them. I can't ask the cost center or anything. I can just go and work in an informal way to provide some result for my organization to grow. This is one mechanism. Or another mechanism what we follow is a formal way, the regular way what we follow. This is what the expectation from the interviewers. What they say, Irfan, you attended the Agile call or a Scrum call on a daily basis, the stand-up call you attended, and you have a bi-weekly sprint scheduled. with a couple of stories assigned to you. Couple of stories have been created in a Jira story as a Jira story. As a Jira ticket, the story points have been created inside the Jira ticket. And inside that, the story points, you are going to split it into multiple tasks or subtasks. You are going to maybe like split into multiple subtasks. And you are going to work in the subtask. Either you or your team members are going to work in the subtask and going to get this work completed and get it deployed in 2 weeks. Like this, the formal definition will be given. But in order to start work on this release cycle, I need a couple of things. I have a prerequisite. I'll go and approach in a formal way. So my leads or clients provide or allocate some work, not through the mail or through some other channels. Rather, they will use some tools through what they can allocate the work to us. Any idea, guys? Any tool you guys are using for getting your work allocated in a form of design document, in a form of work breakdown structure, in a form of maybe like a high level or a low level design? Okay, yeah. So manage now, Confluence, Jira also can be used, but couple of people use a service now, Confluence, manage now, all these kind of tools. Version 1, I haven't much worked on version 1, but at least service now I know, Confluence I know, manage now also I haven't worked much on. So service now kind of tool or a Confluence kind of tool can be used to allocate some work in a proper documented fashion. They'll upload the business document. Azure DevOps comprised of all these tools, yes, in the Azure platform or in the AWS platform or in the GCP platform, the entire DevOps practices are followed in the cloud itself directly. But at least in terms of our, maybe like what to say, what our Valli is mentioning, the Asana, like lot of documentation systems are available. Like, CVS, right, or SharePoint, like different types of, the systems are available to allocate work to us in a formal way. But I'm going to talk about what tool here, a tool called Confluence I'm going to talk about. So what you are going to answer in a smart way if you guys wanted to act. Like, I know like you guys have a lot to do in the data engineering side itself. You have a lot to learn, lot to understand, lot to apply. But in order to come out of the interview saying like, hey, Irfan, I answered everything well, but one question the interviewer asked, what is the CICD tool you are using? What are all the CICD practices you are following? Or what are all the DevOps practices you are following? Or the SDLC lifecycle you are following for in your organization like this? If they asked, I was not in a position to answer that question because I'm not entirely from a development background or entirely, I haven't used any of these tools. Like if you say, you can simply answer this question. The interviewer will not go deep dive into it and all asking like, hey, in Confluence page, how did you went and added the documentation? How did you attach the document? How did you got the requirements added? How the Confluence page looks like? Who is which company is promoting this Confluence? Like Atlassian is a company who provides the Confluence page. But those questions and all they will not ask. They will expect what from you? Only this answer. You know, like I get the work through Confluence. The work will be assigned using Confluence. I take the work from the Confluence and or my lead or my business team put the work in the Confluence. Based on the Confluence work, I am going to work on the Jira tickets created and assigned to me. So the Jira ticketing system will be used for creating tickets or stories and get it assigned to me. The tickets will be assigned in my name. And on top of the Jira tickets assigned to me, I'm going to start my development work, listening or using these Confluence documents, Confluence high-level HLD or LLD documents, and supportive documents like this I'm going to tell. Then further to that, once a Jira ticket is created, I do the development. Or maybe like review will be done by my peer review will happen. Then I'll do a testing. Then I'll do the UAT, or at least I'll do the testing, the unit testing I'll do. Once I do the unit testing, I will take the code into, or I will check in the code into, or once the development is completed itself, even it is not undergone with review, I will put the code into, it depends actually, when you are going to upload the code into GitHub or Bitbucket or GitLab or CVS. Like lot of systems are available to put your versions. The version control systems are available. So once the development is completed, I am going to simply upload my code into GitHub repository or Git. I am going to put my code. This must be your answer. Then my peer will take that code and review it in the GitHub. Parallelly with the code, whatever got reviewed, or parallelly while the code is getting reviewed, I'll do the unit testing. I'll ensure the each and every levels of code that I developed works fine. Then, after the unit testing is completed, after the review is also completed, I will do an integration testing. I'll do an integration of the entire code base and ensure the end-to-end it is running fine. Once the integration testing is completed, I will go and ask for the user acceptance testing. Maybe how I do the user acceptance testing, I will pull the code from or check out the code from GitHub and deploy into UAT server. And run the code in UAT. Then once UAT is passed, I'll check in the code to Git for moving it into production. I'll check in the final version of the code. Code into to the Git master branch. We have branches available. So while I do it as an unit testing, I'll create a branch, maybe development branch or a dev branch like this I'll create. So while the code is going to be uploaded into the Git, right? After the development is completed, I'll put it in the branch called dev branch. After the peer review is completed, after the unit testing is completed, I'll go and put the code in the GitHub repository, right? In a branch called UAT branch. Maybe I'll do the unit testing and I'll upload the code into GitHub repository. Or if any changes I have means I'll be uploading. Otherwise, from the dev branch, the code will be moved to the master branch finally. There is something called branch concept we have in the GitHub repository. The code will be moved to the master branch. Then the code will be builded. The code will be tested. The code will be builded. The code will be checked out. Maybe I could say in this way. The checkout of the code will be done. Then the build will be done. Build of code will be done. And the test of the code will be done. And finally, the deployment of the code will be done in an automated fashion by using a component called Jenkins. I'll create a pipeline in Jenkins. There is a tool called Jenkins will be introduced. Jenkins is another CICD tool, continuous integration, continuous deployment or development tool that is available. So the deployment will happen in the production. Once the deployment is completed in the production support team will start, will monitor the code base. So here, what are all the tools we are using is an important factor to understand. I will only bold the tools what we are using here. So in a formal way, how do you follow? The documents will be uploaded into Confluence. The tickets will be created in Jira based on the requirement that is being added in the Confluence page. And the development, once it is completed, the code will go to the GitHub dev branch. GitHub repository or Git is a tool what we use. Then once the unit testing, integration testing and everything is done means the code will be checked out from the GitHub and deployed into the UAT server either manually or through some process like the CICD process using Jenkins I can do. Once the UAT is completed, the check-in of the final code will be done in the master branch. I'll be just moving the code from the dev branch to the master branch. because that is the final. Master branch is the final branch. Like the final code will be kept in the master branch. Then the Jenkins work will start. The Jenkins will keep poll for any changes that is being occurred in the GitHub master branch for this particular code repository. Like this, it will have an eye on that master branch of a GitHub repository that I created. If any changes made in the master branch of the GitHub means, immediately the Jenkins will take that code out, and then it will build the code, compile the code and build it, and it will test the code by executing it, and it will pass the code to the production environment. The production deployment will be happen through some components. Like that component I am not planning to show you guys, but I'll show you that integration of the component. So finally, after the test of the code is completed, if the test is passed, the Jenkins will take the code to the production for deployment. If the test is failed, it will send out a mail or notification to the developers. That is a different story. The testing of code will be done with the help of this Jenkins pipeline. And the Jenkins will call some component like AWS code deploy or GCP workflow manager, or some of these tools will be used in the background for deploying it into the Google Cloud platform or into the AWS platform or into the on-prem platform. If I'm going to deploy this code, some tools like Terraform, this kind of tools will be used in the background. We don't have to worry about this part because this is a core, maybe like a continuous deployment part, which will be taken care by the DevOps team. Basically, this component, you can say, I'm not taking care. It is being taken care by the DevOps team, which we have in our organization. I will upload the code to the master branch. Immediately, the Jenkins tool will take that code and get it deployed to the production. In case if my code runs fine, if the code, when it gets executed, if it executes fine without any errors, any issues, any syntactical issues or semantical issues will be identified here. And the Jenkins will take care of moving the code to production if everything is good means. But while Jenkins move the code to production, so Jenkins will take the code from the Git, check out the code from GitHub, and build the code. If any jars has to be built or any package has to be built, it will build the code. And then it will test the code by executing it, whether everything is fine or not. Once the Jenkins find everything is fine, this tool will take care of calling something like a Terraform or code deploy or GCP workflow manager or any of this tool to get it deployed into production. Do a prod deployment. From there, the tool will be started running, the code will be started running, which will be monitored by the production monitoring team, production support team. So if you want to play a simple role here for answering this question, you can answer only this thing like, hey, I get a requirement through Confluence. I will be getting the Jira tickets assigned in my name. I'll start work on the Jira ticket by looking into the Confluence documents to understand what is the actual requirement. If needed, the grooming calls will be created. Something called a grooming call we have. That means whatever the questions you have, doubts you have in this documentation, we can go and attend a grooming call to get it clarified. To get to know about this entire work, what we have, we'll have a grooming call executed with the business or with the requirement team. Then we do the development. The development will be done by the developer, which is the main activity of the developer. This will be taken care by the business team. So who will do this activity? The business team will do. The Jira tickets will be created by our leads and managers. Our managers or our PM mode people, our leads, our managers will do this work. Not we have to do. Or our client itself will create the tickets, which can be assigned to our team members by our lead. Then the grooming call will be engaged by our managers or the clients. We don't have to worry about any of this if you are going to play a role of a developer. All you have to do is only concentrate on the development. All you have to concentrate on moving the code to the GitHub. This will be done by a developer. After complete the development in PyCharm or in Eclipse or in command line interface or anything, if you are going to complete any code, you are going to move this code into development branch, move the code into GitHub repository. That is the work what we are supposed to do. And we may do a peer review. All these are done by whom? The developer. Developer means data engineer or anyone you can call him as. Data engineer or a data analyst or anybody you can call him as, he is going to do that activity. These all will be done by these people. The peer review will also be done by one another data engineer. Unit testing will be done by us. Integration can be done by either a data engineer or by the testing team. If an organization has a testing team, those people will do. Otherwise, we itself have to do. Then it's a responsibility of our the developer to go and move the code to the UAT. Run the code in the UAT. Then check in the final code to the master branch also has to be done by the data engineer. So these are all the roles of the data engineer. Not the work of creating the Confluence or Jira tickets is the work of the data engineers. It's all about updating the status in the Jira we have to do. Once the work is completed, development completed means the developer has to go and put the time of how long he has taken, how many days or how many hours he taken for completed this work. He'll be just updating the Jira. So Jira ticket will be assigned and the Jira ticket will be updated by whom? The development will be done by the developers, the data engineers, and the Jira tickets will be updated with the respective status. Will be updated with the respective status by the developer. So this is the life cycle what we follow in a formal way. If the work is getting assigned, maybe the tool names may vary here and there. People may use different tool names, and Jira is one of the famous tool used in the market. But other than that, somebody were telling or Git is the famous tool used in the market, or Bitbucket or GitLab. Lot of tools are used. SCM or CVS, lot of tools are available. But Jira is a famous tool used for assigning the tickets for everybody to get assigned. This is the way how the end-to-end life cycle of the development till productionization happens with the help of the tools. How many tools we have here? Confluence, Jira, Git, Jenkins. These 4 components are majorly going to play a role, at least in the scope of the developer. And we have a lot of other DevOps tools available in the market to enable a lot of other automations. Chef, Puppet, and a lot of tools are available. It's not in our scope, basically. I know like a couple of you guys might be using this, but might not have seen in this angle of like how end-to-end connectivity is happening. Maybe take this as an opportunity to understand that. And now we are going to discuss about, right? This is what I was discussing, right? And step by step, we'll go and see. First, the leads or clients are going to provide some work through the Confluence, which is being owned by Atlassian. A company called Atlassian is owning this tool, basically. The tool name called Confluence, which is being owned by the company called Atlassian. Okay. So, one second, guys. Somebody went on off muted. Okay. So, let me go and discuss about this tool called Atlassian Confluence. So this is how the requirement, the business will come and put a planning. Karul, I'm putting you on mute. Okay. So Atlassian is the, I'm going to start with the business, the customer requiring the business, asking the business is planning, and the code is being developed by the developer, and it is getting built, tested, released, getting deployed and operated. This is how the cycle will happen in terms of the general development life cycle. So the development, and then the testing, the quality assurance will be happening, or environment configuration, production deployment, job scheduling will happen in the deployment phase, then operationalized. These are all will be automated by the DevOps tools, basically. Okay, this is the part what we were discussing. Very importantly, this is a very important part of our discussion we are going to engage. So, to the Confluence, the team document or the work, this is a place where the documentations for collaboration of our work will be happening. The documentation for sharing with the users, with the developers will be happen through the Confluence tool. The first tool we are going to check, we are going to work. Then Jira is the ticketing system where the sprint planning will happen, and the collaboration of the entire work will be happening through the Jira ticketing system. The tickets will be created. The work will be assigned in a form of tasks or epics or stories or in a form of project or anything it can be assigned with. We are going to discuss about this Jira ticketing system. Then we are going to discuss about how to upload the code or download the code. That means check in or check out the code into the Git software version control system or a source code management repository system. We are going to discuss about, we are going to learn about. Then how the Jenkins can be used for deploying the code automatically or the manual deployment, what I was discussing. I don't wanted to show that, but in the Jenkins way, how we can get the code moved across in a different stages. Like the code uploaded into the or committed into the Git will be immediately checked out by the Jenkins tool and will be compiled, will be built, will be compiled and built, and it will be tested. The failed to build or failed to complete the testing will send a notification to the developer. If the build is successful, then the code will be deployed to the production. This is a pipeline which will be created in the Jenkins side. Once the code is moved to production, it is being triggered for execution. And from there, the production support team will take care of the rest of the work. This is the life cycle. So you are going to explain about, I get the work in Confluence. I get the tasks assigned in a form of Jira tickets or Jira stories or Jira tasks or Jira subtasks, or in a single epic, I have multiple tasks created. I will go and update this Jira ticketing system with the status of what is completed or in pending or in progress or productionized or having some questions or on hold or anything I can just change in the Jira ticketing system. And I'll upload the code once I completed in the GitHub repository system with the versions maintained. Once the code is finally uploaded into the master branch of GitHub, the Jenkins will pull that code from the GitHub and take it and get it extracted or get it checked out, get it executed, get it tested, get it built, get it executed, get it tested, and get it deployed to the production. From there, the code, my code will start running the production. So all this we are going to see, maybe step by step. Okay. So the Confluence, a knowledge base where the documents, stories, supportive content, or release steps, or backout steps, or support steps, everything will be kept in the Confluence page. If I want to put any documents in a repository, I can use Confluence as one of the best tool available. I can create my own web page in the Confluence to describe about something related to my project or something related, some glossaries of my project I want to create. Some business rules I want to define in my about my project in a page. I can define that, which can be referred by everybody in a very simple fashion. Like a web page I can create in a dynamic fashion, in a very quick fashion. And Jira is a ticketing system where epics will be created. The larger stories or smaller stories will be created for development purpose or maintenance purpose or enhancement purpose or for doing a bug fixing. The bugs also can be created. All this will be created in the form of Jira stories. And the tasks can be created, subtasks can be created, or tasks or issues can be created, which can be divided into further subtasks. All these, the points what I just discussed above, I just formally defined over here. Now let's go and see. So this is the end-to-end life cycle of how the things will be followed in a end-to-end life cycle of the development till the productionization. What I discussed above, I just made it in a kind of like a pictorial representation. You can go through this. And what is Agile comprised of all these stories or all this sprint cycle, like everything I just mentioned over here. 2 weeks once or 5 days once, whatever the sprint cycle. Now we are going to discuss about the Confluence, which is a workspace where the knowledge and collaboration will meet each other. The dynamic pages can be created for our team, for our project, or for the work what we are doing, which can help everybody to collaborate in the project or share the ideas with each other. So this product is being released by a company called Atlassian. And we can go and create an account for free of cost by using this link, what I have given to you guys. If you want to explore, you guys can explore in a later point of time. So I am going to Atlassian. Maybe I'll open from scratch. I'll open one after another from scratch. Atlassian.com. If I go, I can able to go and reach my menu for opening either Jira, or I can go to maybe like the Confluence. This Atlassian company provides all this opportunity for me to play around. So I'm going to the Confluence page first of all. So in this Confluence, I can go and create, or I can use some templates that is built in, or I can create a page. So I'm a business development person. I'm a business user, or I am a client. I'm going to allocate some work to you guys to perform some activity, right? So you are all going to work in a project. You are all working in an XYZ project. So I will go and create a design document by following this template, or documents and reports, or HR related content. Everything has been identified, or 128 templates are available. We can follow any of this template. So the user space, I can just choose, I can create a user space. Initially, when I log in into this, right, I can create a page to say what, hey, I want to just maybe like go and create one space related to my project. Like for example, I'm going to say, we are going to work in a project, right? This project can be specifically created for us. So I'm going to say, I'm going to work with XYZ team. So I'm going to create a blank space, or I can create a team space where we can share the resources with the team. This is what we are going to achieve, right? Or some knowledge base where I want to share some maybe like what to say, some notebook or some rule book where everybody has to follow. Or I want to maintain some technical documents, right? Any of this you guys can create. A blank space we can create, or we can go with some predefined team space where we can collaborate and share resources with your team. Or we can create a documentation and share it to the team, or blank space we can create. Anything you can create. The space name is Inceptus. Like this, I'm creating some project space. Okay, I'm just creating it. Inside this project space, we can go and use the template and design any pages that we want. So people can go to any pages. I can share this to anybody. I can just do all this activity over here. This is a self-describable thing. I don't have to explain all this to you. But one thing what you are supposed to understand is, very importantly, you should have to use this tool name while you are explaining about your SDLC lifecycle, how you are following in your organization. In a formal way, if you are going to explain, hey, formally we'll get the requirement documents, or the business design documents, or the high level or a low level design documents added in our Confluence page. I can invite additional team members to join this particular maybe like what to say this environment. So I can collaborate with those people. So I can go and have somebody else added in this maybe like what to say, the mailbox info@inceptus.com. I can add. I can just add those people to access my Confluence or the Jira software. So I can attach them as my member, as my maybe like whatever the project members, or a group of the people, I can add them. Okay, the mail will be sent to this inceptus.com to go and connect with this whatever the Confluence page like this, they'll be sending. Now I'm going to do what? I'm going to create a page in this Confluence. I want to upload some business requirement document, some project related content. I want to design a page. Using any of the templates, we can do that. So I'm going to create a design page. Design page, all these are the templates we can create. Like for the sprint one, what are all the goals that I want to achieve, and what are all the activities that I want to achieve over here. Like I can just mention over here, the calendar, in review, all this I can capture. This can be captured in the Jira also. Like this, we can just put over here, design document components to design. Something like this. I can go and create. And I can attach whatever I want in addition as well. So this is the template what has been given. Like project 1 design. Like this, I'm going to mention the description of the project, right? The component name is module 1 or ingestion module, right? Under the description of the ingestion, I mean, like pull the data on a daily basis from the marketing system, right? I can just bring some diagrams over here and attach it over here as per my need. Like all this you guys can perform as an activity. You can just include them. A link I can keep, or I can bring a file and attach here. Right? I mean, like these are all some basic things like everybody else of having some idea about, right? Just going to attach that, whatever the diagrams that I want to show, and some of the definition related to the diagram what we want to follow. Like we can create this kind of design documents, attach some, I mean, like business requirement documents or whatever we want to attach. All this we can do over here. The code snippet, sample code snippet, anything that we want, we can attach over here. The roadmap or the Jira issues, what we wanted to embed here, we can embed. So some of the Jira tickets that I got created, I can able to insert those Jira tickets also over here. They go and look into this Jira ticket and get the work done like this also. The people can go and make use of this. Like this, we can create this entire documentation and already saved, auto saved. You can publish it to the team, like who are attached as our maybe like users, right? We can share this to our team. I published it, and I can just ask everybody to go and see this URL to understand maybe like how the things are happening. Like I can just add all of the people in the users level. So I got some Jira admins group or whatever the developer groups and all got created. And apart from that, I can attach to info@inceptors.com. I can send to Mohammed Irfan inceptors.com and all this particular link. And I can share this link to others also. So this is the first activity what our business team will do, right? So you can able to answer this one in the interview. Like if they ask, hey, how do you get the requirement from your business team, from your clients, from your management team, or anybody, you can answer the first thing, right? Right, team? Any questions you have in the Confluence? Then the second thing, based on this Confluence document, which was received by Mohammed Irfan or info@inceptors.com site, right? Whoever received this documentation, they will go and use this documentation. They'll go and join the team, and they'll use this documentation, the Confluence documentation, and so I'm going to log in into this Atlassian as a info@inceptors.com user, and I'm going to share this work to my developers by going into the going to the Jira ticketing system. Some of the tools you will be connect them later. Like I can integrate the GitHub or GitLab or Slack. Slack is a chat channel. Like this and all, I can integrate in a later point of time also with a lot of tools this guy supports, that Atlassian is supporting. So now I can go to this page and I can understand what is the requirement that is being given to me in the Confluence side. And I can go and convert this Confluence page content. The Confluence page content I can able to convert into into the Jira tickets. This page, whatever got created, right? Coming up, 1 second. Okay, so I can go and take this into consideration as an info@inceptus.com user. I'm a kind of a lead or a manager, and I'm going to convert this into a Jira ticket. I'm going to create a Jira ticket on top of this. So how I'm going to do? I'm going to the Jira now. I'm going to the Jira ticketing system now, where I will just say, okay, some ingestion requirement is there. So I'll go and create a project either, or I can use the existing project, and I'll go and create a epic. Epic means a detail or a kind of a module, a big module. I'm going to make it completed. For ingestion, I'm going to create an epic. So within this team one, we can create a project and we can assign that to the project. Either a task or an epic we can create. Task is a simple work. I wanted to get it done. Just an ingestion work, I want to get it done. Or I want to implement an end-to-end project which contains multiple story points. So first I'm going to create one project. I'm going to create a project for performing a sprint kind of activity, the Scrum activity, sprint towards your project goals and board or the roadmap. I want to create a Scrum project over here. I can follow some maybe kind of the templates over here. The basic roadmaps are advanced user, like I can just create all this. So simplified configuration. Okay, the team is going to be Inceptus aspirants. Like this, I'm going to create a team over here. Okay. I'm just going to connect. I'm going to create a team project here where I'm going to play a role of a Scrum Master role, or I'm going to play a role of a manager role to create tasks for the people. So I have different people over here. I can just add the people over here for this particular project, like info@inceptus.com, mohammedirfan@gmail.com. Sorry, already it is there, right? I'm going to add somebody called Inceptus. This okay, I'm just going to add the person. He's going to get a mail saying like, hey, you got added into this project by an admin. Like this, you are going to get a mail, and I'm going to connect through that mail to get the work assigned. It's like our organizational mail, basically. So the project has been added with a couple of people. So now I'm going to, maybe like I can have a roadmap created. In that roadmap, the tasks can be created, the sprints can be created. This is done by our higher management people. Sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, what are all the tasks I'm going to create for the sprint? Like maybe sprint 1 is data ingestion. Sprint 1, like this I'm creating. So how long the sprint has to be executed? In terms of weeks, 2 weeks, I want to get it executed. Or this sprint has to be completed in a given day, like this and all I can do. And I can create an maybe like an epic for that sprint actually. Okay, I can create a sprint like this. Maybe like it's not allowing me to create sprint one like this. I'm creating, which can be defined with the dates of how many days I want to define the sprints. Under the sprints, I can create multiple epics, and that epics can be allocated. So I'm going to create an epic here. So you can create it as a task or a bug or an epic. Epic is a longer, bigger story. Task is a shorter story inside that epic. Bug is a quick fix if I want to do get it done. Like depends upon the type of project you create. This options varies basically. So I'm going to create an epic saying like, okay, maybe like data ingestion to the big data cluster like this. I'm going to do first work. So at the rate of Inceptus, info@inceptus.com, or at the rate of Inceptus WDW big data WDWE 2022 at gmail.com. You have to start work on getting the data from the source system into our platform. Something like this I'm going to mention, pointing to that guy. So I'm going to assign this either to me, info@inceptus.com, or I'm going to assign it to somebody else, Mohammed Irfan at gmail.com, or somebody else. Like that guy is yet to be added. That Inceptus WDWE 39, that guy is yet to be registered over here. He did not register it. Try to get him registered it. Get him signed in and get him registered into this account it. That is not happened yet. Okay, so I did not receive a mail yet. Okay, fine. I'm yet to get that mail. Maybe I am not getting it earlier. So I have to get it assigned. I can add all this other information, like saying the label or start date, when this task is supposed to be started from Monday, and when it has to be completed by 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, this work has to be completed, right? The severity of this issue, like this, I can give. The reporter has to be Inceptus. So the task is assigned to Irfan, and the reporting person for Irfan is going to be so and so, and I can attach some project document if I have anything in the outside, or I can add some URLs over here saying like, hey, this is the particular maybe like what to say. This is the particular URL where you can go and see this Confluence related stuffs and all. I can mention this Confluence page what I have here, right? I can go and mention all this to notify this guy, saying like, you go and refer this Confluence page for more information. Like the issue is going to be a duplicate issue, or it's a blocker. All this you can just mention. This issue is related to what issue? This issue is blocked by some other issue, or this is blocking something else to continue. It has a dependency. So blocks another issue we have. Maybe if I have one more issue like data curation. The curation is blocking because of your issue. First you have to complete, then only they will start the curation. Like this, I'm just telling. Just some flags and all can be created, and you can create another issue as a completion of this issue either. So this is the way how you can create an issues and get assigned to the sprints. You can see it is starting from here and getting ended here in the first sprint. Then we can create another epic, right? That can be assigned with the new sprint that can be created. I created as epic right now earlier. Now I'm going to create it as a task, a simple task. Hey, maybe like provide data to the client. Like this, I'm creating a simple task. This task can be completed in a very short span of time. At the rate of Mohammed Irfan, can you please provide the customer churn data to the data science team from the so-and-so data set, so-and-so database, which should have 1 year worth of data in a CSV format. Like this, they may put a request and assign it to either myself. I'm going to do that work of my own, or I'm going to assign it to somebody else. All this we are creating, and this work is been blocked by the other work what we had. The Jira is not coming up. That other issue, maybe that is not an issue, that is an epic, so it will not be blocked. So just mention how long this work is going to be taken care of. All this we can just able to mention. The sprint one, whatever we got created, right? That the epic what we got created, right? That epic I'm going to mention that the inside that sprint one it has to come. So how many story points you are going to create for this task to complete? 3 story points. I'm going to mention just 3 story points. Get it created. So inside this epic, we are having the task allocated, the task created. That is what we were doing over here. Within this work, it has to be completed. Like this, the work will be created and assigned to the users, to the maybe like developers. And the developer can go and do what? Your work. He can see what all the works assigned to me, what are the recent work that got created, what are the work that is assigned to me, or what are the work that is assigned to, this is an info@inceptus.com, right? What are the work assigned to Muhammad Irfan at gmail.com that can be logged in as Muhammad Irfan. So he can go and see what are the works assigned to him, got assigned to him, and he'll start work on that work from Monday onwards. Somebody have created this work for me, my work. So assigned to, okay, this is logged in as Inceptus, it seems. So the work assigned to somebody else, even I can get that, take that work and start to. I mean, I did not switch it to Muhammad Irfan at gmail.com, it seems. That's the reason it was not showing me. Now, if I go as an Inceptus and see what are all my work, it will show me that work, what I got, what got assigned. So I will go and start work on this work and I'll put a comment. I'll ask them question to somebody. Yeah, at the rate of Muhammad Irfan, can you tell me like, can you please provide the design document? Like this, I will go and have a communication between back and forth between my clients or my users or my manager or anybody, addressing them to the respective, I mean, like I'll tag to them respectively. Right, I can link with another issues, or I can create subtasks actually. I can go and add more subtasks or add a child issue, we call it as, but in the better version of this Jira ticketing system and all, we'll have a concept called subtask creation. Subtask means a child issue I'll create. I'll say that there is a data ingestion has to be done to the big data cluster. For that, can you, I mean, a table creation request or table creation task like this I'm creating. I'm allocating one task as a story. As multiple story I'm creating. Table creation task is a story. One more story is maybe like view creation task. I'm first going to create a table and then I'm going to create a view, and the data load to the table is the third task I'm creating. So there are 3 stories created for this particular maybe task. The 3 stories are being mentioned over here, and I can just say this task I just started or in progress. This task is yet to be completed, or I can say this process is completed and this process is in progress. Table is created, or table is created, but maybe like data load is in progress, like this I mentioned. Right? These are all the common tool what everybody can play around. I don't want to teach you guys this one, but if I say, guys, there is something called a Jira ticketing system that is available, you can go and play around in creating tickets or epics or tasks or stories and all. You can assign. You can just create the child issues. You can attach the documents, or you can attach with some other links. The Confluence page links are all this. If you can attach, like if I say, you will not be having a clarity. But I hope you got some understanding here. You got some understanding on this, guys? Everybody?
Yes, sir.
Like I know a couple of you guys are using this kind of tools, but we are seeing it as a connected pipeline. Like we may be using here and there. I'm just showing you one after another. Okay, considering that way. So there are two things we completed. What are the things? We got the work assigned through the Confluence page. I mean, the documents and all created, the design documents or the pages are created through Confluence page, and the Jira tickets are created based on that Confluence page work that got assigned by the business, the clients, by my managers. They created a sprint. They put a sprint planning. They created epics, tasks, stories and all. Epics and then task and then story. Epics is a larger stories comprised of all these activities that can be performed. Then the tasks or issues can be created. Then the subtasks, which can comprise of stories, can be created. This is the way how the life cycle will happen. Stories are created on top of it. Done, guys. So Confluence, Jira. Now we are into Git. Now we are going to discuss about Git. Git must be known by every developers. Whether you are knowing about Confluence or not, how to play around Confluence, how to play around Jira, you are knowing or not, at least you have to know about how to go and see the work what is assigned to you, and how to go to that work and ask for some questions if you have, or just to mention change the status of what work you are doing. All this you are supposed to do for sure. You must be knowing how to do that for sure. But apart from that, you don't have to worry about creating that sprint or sprint life cycle or managing of that project. It's not in your scope. Until and otherwise, if you are going to play a Scrum Master role, your work is to simply go and leverage this tool to go and understand what is the work assigned to me and how I'm going to do that work. Being as a lead or a manager or whoever, you are going to maybe like manage this tool efficiently by playing around. I mean, the paid version of this tool will show some more options. This is a freeware version, so this is not having an entire options that is available, but we are using some of them. But whether you use Confluence or Jira or not, based on this only, you are going to start your development as a data engineer. Based on the Jira tickets, you will start the development. You will refer the Confluence page to understand the actual business requirements and all, and you do the development. Once the development is completed, you are going to do what? You are going to upload your code to GitHub repository. What is Git? Git is a version control system. Git is a code repository. I'm going to develop a code in my Windows machine or in my Linux machine. This code has to be safely secured somewhere, which has to be collaborated with somebody, which has to be maintained with the version of the today's code what I developed and the yesterday's code what I developed, which has to be pushed to a common platform from where the code can be moved across to different other platforms. Like I need some repository, like a Google Drive you can consider, guys. Git is like a Google Drive. Whatever you are doing in your computer, you are going to upload it into a Google Drive by end of the day, because if I lose this document, I'm uploading all these documents to the Google Drive and sharing it to you guys. I'm using Google Drive as a collaborative environment for uploading every content. But here the Git is used for collaborating our code base. Especially the code will be uploaded into the GitHub. The Git will provide us a version control feature, version control system feature. Like we can upload the code and maintain the versions of different version of the code. We can upload the code into different branches to upload the code in a development branch or in a master branch. Development branch says what? The code is still in the development. It is not finalized yet. That code can undergo changes. But once I push the code to the master, it is ready for production. Like I'm notifying. I'm having an identification based on the branch. The code has to be present in the master or in the development or in the UAT branch or whatever I can create. and I can upload the code in the respective branches, and the code will be safely secured in the internet or within our intranet of the organizations. The code will be secured. I can have a public or a private repository created. For that, where I have to go, guys, I asked all of you to create a GitHub repository. I know most of you guys have given your GitHub repository URL, right, in the G drive also, and we can use that GitHub repository of who are having some code base developed and uploaded for our collaborative purpose. Now I'm going to talk about the GitHub. So github.com/Muhammad Irfan. I'm going to the Muhammad Irfan's GitHub repository, where Irfan has around 33 repositories created in the past period of time. And the GitHub also can be used as a project collaborative environment where we can have documents like a Confluence, like somebody of you guys were telling. For maintaining all my documentations and all, I'm using GitHub. Somebody were telling, right? Or for maintaining the maybe like all these interactions about the task creation and everything, we can have a projects created, and the projects can be used for maintaining the life cycle entirely in the GitHub. Also, these opportunities are available. You can have a project created, the Jira board kind of things can be created. You can visualize that what all the backlogs of the work is there. Everything can be done in the Jira also. We can have the assignees, we can have the status maintained. Everything we can create as a view and maintain as well in Jira also. But Jira is not used for that purpose mainly by the people. Jira is mainly being used by the people for storing their code, for managing their code, for maintaining the versions of their code, for pushing and pulling the code for collaborative purpose. For example, if I'm going to complete my work today, I'm going to complete my coding today in any form. What all the format the code can be developed, right? Each and every tool, if we consider, if I'm going to write Linux commands or the Hadoop commands, I can put it in a shell script. If I'm going to develop Hive queries, I'm going to put it in a HQL file. If I'm going to develop scoop commands, I'm going to keep it in a Oozie workflow. Or if I'm going to develop a Python program, I'm going to keep it in a .py file. If I'm going to develop a Scala Spark program, I'm going to keep it in a .jar file. I'm going to develop a NiFi workflow, I'm going to keep it in an XML file, XML template file. I'm going to develop maybe what to say, the Kibana dashboard. That Kibana dashboard will be exported as a JSON file. Like each and every of the development that you are doing, it is going to be maintained in a respective format, respective type of the code base, which I have mentioned over here. I'm not sure how many of you guys have gone through this. Like, what are all the way we will package the code, right? What are the way we will manage the packaging of the code that I have mentioned over here. In each and every code base, how do you maintain the packages? How do you package the code? Linux shell scripts or Hive. How do you pass the parameters to the Hive? Scoop, HBase as a shell script I will maintain. Oozie as an coordinator.xml, workflow.xml, and job.properties. Everything I can keep it in the GitHub repository. Spark, either Scala Spark or a PySpark. NiFi, how can I keep it as a template? Kafka, I'll keep it as a shell script even. Elasticsearch, I can keep it as a shell script for creating the whatever that indexes and everything. Kibana, I'll create it as a visualizations and dashboards and export it as a JSON file. All this I just mentioned in this page number 46 and 47 of the document. You guys can make use of. So now I have any code developed, where the main code what we develop will be the PySpark code. PySpark is our bread and butter. So how we are going to upload or download or maintain a repository of storing all our PySpark code in the common repository, not in the common repository. This is I have created a lot of public repositories over here. If you see here, most of them are public repositories. Very few private repositories I created. The private repositories is the one what will be created by the people in the organizations. They don't create public repositories. Basically, you can see the private repositories will be created. But if you wanted to manage your project and all somewhere, if you wanted to maintain your code base and all in a common repository, in a GitHub repository, all you have to first do is create a repository. In order to upload the code or bring the code from the common place, we have to first create a repository. This is what the very first activity everybody has to do. So we'll be creating a repository, something called Inceptus repo. Like this I'm creating. Inceptus repo I'm creating. Repo 2022 I'm creating like this. I can say it's a public or a private. Public means across the people in the world can see this repository. Whatever the code I'm uploading, they can see. Or I can create a private repository which can be only accessed by our group of the people, that I can create a group and all. As an organization I can create, and in that organization I can create groups. I can create a group and I can attach the people to this group. I can go and add more people to this group. I can add more number of people to this group by attaching. That is a different story. Membership privilege. We can add members over to this group. Okay, fine. So I'm just having a public repository created, right? Repository for uploading project code base. Like this I'm setting up here. Okay, readme.txt file I can add. I can add something called a git ignore file, where I can just have some program running to ignore some of the files which I'm uploading to the GitHub repository. I can just use any of these languages to make this happen. The Scala language or a Python language or any language I can use for creating a git ignore template, which you can least bother. And the license I can go and choose the open source license or the other licenses, what we want to choose. The Apache license I'm choosing. The branch it is going to create, default is going to be a main branch or a master branch. We used to call in any way, any name you can call. I'm going to set this to set a branch name called master branch for a better understanding, for a better usage as per the market need. So master branch I created. I'm just telling, hey, don't create a branch as main branch, create it as a master branch like this I'm telling. By default, when you create, I'm creating a repository. My work is done. My work is done. So I have one common repository created to collaborate my code with all you guys. Right? You are all my team members, let's assume. You are all belonging to Inceptus. Okay, I already added all of you guys in this project, in my team. In the organization, you guys all got added. So now, don't consider this as a public repository. Everybody in this world can see my code. Don't think in that way. Everybody who are all added in this project of GitHub can be accessing this code. Not everybody in this world can access. Not everybody in the organization even can access. Only the people who are all having access to this project, whom I have added, those people will have access to the code. Now I'm going to do what? I have no code added in this repository so far. I have a code repository. I have issues repository. I can create issues as like how we created in the Jira. I can have an issue created. I can ask the people to work on this issue and get it closed by creating the code base even. We have options available. Right? Let's not worry about it. Even Git can perform some sort of task like Jira can do. But I'm going to talk about, I am developing some code in my Windows machine or in my Linux edge node or anywhere. I'm just developing some code. I want to take the code into GitHub, what I can do for that. So I got to first make my remote GitHub, the internet-based GitHub repository, speak with my Windows-based tool, Windows-based software, or Windows-based command line interface, or Linux-based command line interface, or Windows-based tool, Linux-based tool. It has to speak. I have to make my tool speak with the GitHub, first of all. This is the first work I'm supposed to do. So what is the definition of GitHub represents? See, we crossed Confluence, we got Jira tickets assigned, we completed our coding. Now I'm going to upload the code into the software version control system or a source code management repository system called GitHub. I completed my development in the Windows machine or in the Linux machine. So I completed the work in the PyCharm environment in the Windows machine. I had the PyCharm setup completed in my Windows machine. Maybe let me check you have PyCharm setup I have given or not in this documentation. Maybe I haven't given this in this documentation. I'm going to provide you guys this PyCharm setup for Windows documentation. I'm going to share with you guys. I'm going to share how do we set up the PyCharm for Windows. So you can have your PyCharm environment created for Windows also using this documentation that I'm going to share. Okay, I will share you the documentation, guys. Not a big deal. Okay. Somewhere I kept that code, the document. Yeah, sophisticated. Okay, this is the one. Incept as Python, PyCharm, PySpark, PyCharm installation 2022. Okay, not this one. Okay, I have some outdated document over here. I'll get the recent document. I'll share you guys. How did I install the PyCharm in my Windows? That is one thing I'm just going to share with you guys. Why I am going to share that with you? So you are going to have the PyCharm or the Eclipse IDE created in your Windows machine. You are going to have the Eclipse or PyCharm environments going to be set in your Windows machine by having Java already installed in your Windows machine. By having Python installed in your Windows machine, you are going to set up the PyCharm environment in your Windows machine also. And you are going to do all your development in the PyCharm in the Windows machine, not in the Linux machine. That is the first consideration you are having. Okay. Now the question is, yeah. Yes, Nagendra. You don't have PyCharm installed in your Windows machine. That's what you're telling him. In your Linux machine, you don't have installed. Is it so, guys? Somebody else can say, is it the same case for all of you? Did not able to install the PyCharm in your Linux machine? Tim? No, Kiran, you are able to install or not? Installed on Linux, right?
We have been using that long back and we are developing all the codes in the PyCharm only of the Linux.
No, I'm not getting it.
Yeah, we are using Linux only.
No. What is your question, Kiran? You installed in Linux but not in Windows. That's what you're telling?
Correct.
You are not installed in Windows. That's what you're telling, right?
Yes, one.
Yeah, that is what I was searching for the documentation to share you to get it installed in your Windows. I'm searching for the documentation. What I did so far is I'm just trying to find the recent documentation that I created with proper screenshots. If you follow that screenshot, you can able to install PyCharm in your Windows. You are able to understand what I'm speaking? Clear, Kiran? In Linux, you have installed. In Windows, you haven't installed. That I'm going to share you. Yes, that is what I'm telling. Like we know, but in real time, we always go with the deployment using Windows. That is what I'm going to show with Windows. Like I'm going to showing you in Windows only, not in Linux. So we do development in the Windows using the PyCharm. That PyCharm Windows installation document, I was searching actually. Like I was searching here somewhere, I kept that in multiple folders I'm maintaining, right? So somewhere I kept this document. of the PyCharm installation for Windows. Okay. I'm not able to get that. Maybe like you can see here, like I can show you some old document, but that old document has some, I mean, like not clearly mentioned with what you are supposed to do to install PyCharm in your Windows, right? So I just updated the document with the proper documentation. That is what I'm trying to say here. I'll share you the document with you guys, right? Including maybe I just created some video for that also. Not needed. The video and all is not needed. In fact, I could say. So make use of the document to go and install PyCharm for Windows. So Windows Old, you can see here, I created Windows Old and Windows New. Maybe this is the new document, what you guys are asking for. This is the one I was searching for. PyCharm installation Windows on when I created 3/1/2022. This is what I created. So I'll be sharing you guys this one. That I have shared in our G drive. That is already there in your G drive. You can go and check. It is already there. All you have to do is get the G drive. I did not share the Windows document. That is for sure. But Windows also I shared, but that is not up to date. So here you can see all you have to do what I just mentioned here. How to install and configure the PyCharm in Windows. I just mentioned that here. The properties and all what you are supposed to define. I put a long time effort to create this document. So go and get this installation completed. I can share you as a video also on this, but it's all about some 14-page document, more of images we have. If you follow this, you can definitely able to install PyCharm for Windows. And I kept that in all the softwares also I kept in this location. You don't have to even download separately. You can go to this URL and download that software. You are clear? And for Linux, I already shared and people have installed it. Right? A couple of you guys were installed in the Linux. But in Windows, this is how you have to download. PyCharm Community Edition, Python 3.3.7.6 version, Java JDK 8x version, and WinUtils. This is one file which is needed for cheating Python, saying like, hey, cheating PySpark saying that you are running in the Linux platform, Hadoop platform, like in a Linux platform and in a Hadoop platform, you are running like this. I'm cheating by providing one executable file in the Windows. So all these softwares you are supposed to download, and you have to install Java, you have to install Python by double clicking that softwares. All you just have to do is double click and install the software, like how we install any software. Then you have to copy the WinUtils file into this folder, WinUtils/bin or whatever, wherever, Hadoop/bin or wherever you can save this software. Then you are going to install the PyCharm Community Edition. Then you have to download the Hadoop 2.7 or 3.x or whatever the version. And you have to set up some environment variable. This is the only place where you have to be more cautious enough. We have to go and add the environment variables of where the WinUtilities file is copied and where the Java home is installed. Java is installed in which location, and Python is installed in which location, Hadoop is installed in which location. All this information you have to mention over there, like this. And Python is installed in which location, you have to mention. Once you mention all of those, you can go and open the PySpark project in the PySpark in your Windows itself. I remember I created a recording for this, and I'll search and give you guys this document along with that recording of how to install PyCharm in your Windows. Okay. Now the question is, as Vinod is telling, in real time, we always go with development using Windows. True. Not always. We go to our VM also, and VM means the edge node also, and we do the development. It's not always the case, but we use for Python development, for PyCharm, for PySpark development, we use PyCharm in Windows. Whatever the UI tools we have, whatever the command line interface tools we use, the Hive prompt, if you go and develop, if you are going to write some queries in Hive prompt, not in the web GUI like Hue. If you are going to write the queries in Hive, you'll go to the VM only. VM means the edge node only, the edge node putty terminal only will go. So Not always you go for every development into the Windows machine itself. Even you can go and open PySpark in your edge node also, and you do the development. We do development in the PySpark itself by writing some of the quick code and all. We don't always depend on the PyCharm, but in Windows only we have the user interface available, unlike Linux. See, we were using everything in one box because to avoid all the challenges you guys are going to face in creating this PyCharm in your Windows machine. Sometime your Windows may get crashed, or you may change your computer. Everything, if it is there in a VM, right, you can able to port this VM anywhere. That's the reason. That's the idea behind the VM. So it's once we go inside this PyCharm, it's just a user interface. It's just a tool. Whether you use it in Windows or in Linux, once for all setup, you are going to spend some time to set up. That's it. That setup also, I have provided you the documentation. You can follow the documentation and get it installed very easily. Now I'm coming back to our question. What is the question here is, guys, as Vinod is telling, I'm going to use my Windows machine to upload all the code or download all the code into the GitHub. Okay, so the Jira has all these types of statuses, processes, or the types of issues. All this we have, guys. The priorities, everything it has. In an entire open version of Jira, the enterprise version of Jira, we will have all these features to change here and there. We discussed only about epic, bug, or the task. No improvement or no new features and all we were able to see in our particular Jira story what we are trying to create. But we have a lot of options like this. You can use this for your reference. Okay. The question is, okay. The question is now, what I'm just talking about this GitHub repository. What is this GitHub? So let's take a scenario. I'm going to maybe have a HQL file developed in my VM. I just went into my Hive prompt and I developed a HQL file in my VM either or in my Windows machine by going into the Hive user interface. We can open Hive and you can develop all the Hive queries and all. And we thoroughly, created the Hive queries for creating a table, loading the data, or dropping some tables or truncating some other tables. Like I have 4 or 5 steps of HQLs created. Let's assume in that way. That HQL file, whatever I got created, I am going to upload it into GitHub. What I will be doing for that. So for example, I created a HQL file over here, something like this. I'm having a HQL file created. Hive part.sh I created. Okay, a shell script I got created, which is having a sequence of HQLs getting run. Okay, something like this. This script I created, guys. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to upload this code into the GitHub repository. I have the code developed in my local Windows machine or in my maybe like Linux machine, and I brought that code in my hand. A shell script I developed where the shell script is going to call a HQL file, and it is going to create a HQL file dynamically, and that HQL file is going to be get called. That is my requirement here. So all I wanted is what? Nothing else other than I want to upload this HQL file which is kept in a KSH, a Khan shell, into my GitHub repository. I want to upload. What I do for that? That is my question. GitHub is in internet. GitHub is an internet repository. That is what I was about to show here for you guys. GitHub is nothing but a system that keeps the record of all the changes that you made, that allow you to create a collaborative environment. I want to share my code to you guys. I want to do a collaboration with you guys in terms of the development that I do. I wanted you to validate my code, what I developed. I wanted you to QA my code or analyze or do a unit testing of, do a kind of a core peer review of my code. I want to allow you to know, right, I want to know about who made the changes and when. What changes has been made by comparing the prior version and the current version. All this I want to achieve. Allow you to revert any changes if already made. Like a lot of things can be achieved in the GitHub. It's a distributed version control system, right? Users can keep the entire code or the history on their location machines, on their local machines, on their machines. Users can make any changes without internet access even. These are all the features of GitHub. Even without internet access also, I can work on my code base and I can push the code later once I get the internet access. All this we can do. Okay, GitHub is introduced in the year of 2005 as a Git. Then later it has been promoted as GitHub in the year of 2008, which is an entirely a Linux-based environment and which provides you a web GUI for easily working towards the collaboration. And what we are going to do here, some two activities we are going to do in GitHub in a very simple fashion to make everyone understand what are all the components the GitHub comprised of. I'm just going to cover that part right now with you guys. Okay. GitHub have a remote repository and a local repository concept. Okay. Remote repository is the one what we just got created. We just went to internet and we got a repository created, right? This is a remote repository for me. I'm creating a common shared drive, like a G drive we can consider. I created a G drive. The name of the G drive is Inceptus Report 2022. And I have my local computer. Okay, this is what currently we have. I have some code developed in my local computer. I want to upload this code into the GitHub repository, the remote repository. I want to upload my code. What I can do for that very simply. First, I have to go and make my remote repository and the local repository connected with each other over the internet. The very first activity what I'm supposed to do is first I have to do maybe like a connectivity between my remote and the local. So for that, what I'm supposed to do, after I created a remote repository, internet repository of GitHub, where I'm going to keep my code in this location, here I'm going to upload my code now. Whatever the code I developed here, the hivepath.ksh, I'm going to upload that code to here. So what I do, I'll go to the code. I'll go and say, open the GitHub for Windows. GitHub for desktop, I want to open like this. I will click here either. I have multiple ways to achieve this. One way I'm going to achieve is through the HTTP service. If I want to achieve, I'll go and open the, GitHub desktop. Or I can go to SSH command. I can go and connect to the GitHub repository using my Linux machine by using this GitHub at git@github.com like this and all I can mention and connect to this remote GitHub. Or I can use a GitHub command line interface to play around also by doing a git clone. Okay. I wanted to connect with this GitHub repository using my software, what I have installed in my Windows. Like Vinod was telling, right, Irfan, most of the development you are going to do it in Windows only, right? So why not you can use some tool for uploading or downloading the code. There are multiple ways we can interact with GitHub. One is using a tool like GitHub for desktop, or another way is using the GitHub command line interface installed in our Windows machine or in our Linux machine, or using the tools like Mav, Eclipse or PyCharm or any tools we can go and interact with GitHub. We have a lot of options available to interact with GitHub basically. So now I'm going to first interact with GitHub to upload my code and download my code or push my code or pull my code from the GitHub repository. I'm just going to interact with GitHub using a beautiful user interface tool that is provided by my organization or by common GitHub itself. The GitHub itself have provided me a tool to play around in a very simple fashion to go and push the code or pull the code from the GitHub. All I have to do is take the code and put it into GitHub or get the code from the GitHub into my local. Somebody have developed some code, upload that into GitHub means I'll bring that code to my local. Or I develop some code in my local, I want to push it to GitHub, I'll do that vice versa. Now the requirement is pretty direct. I wanted to have first a handshake between my remote repository and my local repository, which has to be handshaked to perform a back and forth operation. So I'm just having some code developed in my working directory. I want to push this code to the remote repository. Or I have some remote repository code developed by somebody and uploaded. I want to get it into my local repository for doing some modification in that code or making use of that code. How can I do this? How can I establish this connectivity? What is this working area, staging area, local repository or remote repository? We'll try to understand. Wait for a while. But before that, I have created one remote repository. I want to refresh or I want to make that replicated or maybe like has to be refreshed in my local repository, which has to be refreshed in my local repository. So for that reason, I'm first creating a repository and I want to get it into my local. I want to clone it into my local. So what I will do, I'll go and say, open the GitHub for desktop. So I already have installed a software called GitHub for desktop, which I have listed over here. How to install the GitHub for desktop software over here, I just mentioned. Desktop.com.github.com is the software what we can use. So it will help you open a GitHub for desktop. You can sign in to the github.com by mentioning your username and whatever the name of the user and the URL that we use, mohammedirfan@gmail.com is the GitHub, URL or the username I used, the Gmail I used. Once you give the password, it will allow you to connect the GitHub for desktop tool. The desktop tool is opened here. With the remote GitHub, it will allow you to connect. It will allow you to connect directly. When you install GitHub, it will say, hey, connect with your GitHub. Which GitHub? Mohammed Irfan. GitHub.com/Mohammed Irfan. What is the username I used here to log in into GitHub? I used a username called signed in as mohammedirfan@gmail.com, like it is telling. This is my profile. mohammedirfan@gmail.com is the profile I used to sign into GitHub. So it is just allowing me to go and connect with the GitHub in that way, using my username. So I have to set this for the first time, the GitHub connectivity between my local computer and the GitHub repository running in somewhere in the internet. And I'm going to do what? I'm going to get my list of repositories listed after I connected. Or I did what? I did not listed all this repository and getting it connected. I just opened directly from the GitHub itself my local desktop software. By this way, I opened this repository is being directly pointed, directly asked to clone, get cloned. Clone means what? I'm going to take this repository content, whatever I have in the remote URL, into my local system. This is the URL of my local system, what I have shown here. We are bringing the remote repository cloned to our local working directory, local location where this remote repository code has to be replicated, but there is no code currently present in the remote repository. Only some README file and the license file is there. The Apache license file and the README file is there in the remote repository. I'm going to get this license and the README file copied to my local repository soon. We are going to see that over here. You guys are going to see that over here. When I go here, initially there is no folder available. But once I do a cloning, once I say clone that, it is going to create a local repository and getting it cloned, getting it copied. So now I can see here, this folder is available. And it got the 2 files created from the remote repository. Now all I want to do is what? I want to upload my code to the remote repository. All I need is I want to take this code, the shell script what I created, to the remote repository. To the GitHub, I want to upload the code into the master branch directly. Maybe I can do a master branch code check-in directly as well. I completed my code for the today date and I tested the code. Everything looks fine. I'm going to upload the code into the GitHub repository. How can I do that? This GitHub for Windows software will keep poll my location. Which location? This location. The Inceptus Repo 2022. This location, my software will keep look for. Yeah, anybody is going to keep some code in that location or not, like this, he will keep look for. So I completed my code development in my whatever the like Hue or in my VM or anywhere. I just completed this code. I'm going to upload this code into the GitHub URL. So what I can do, I can copy this code and place in my local. I just kept my code over here. You can consider like that. I kept my code in the local working directory. Working directory is nothing but the place where it holds the actual files that you have coded. I kept my code in the working directory now. Now, this code is kept in the working directory, which is going to be staged to the staging area. Internally, the local environment will maintain 3 layers. One is the working directory, then the staging area, then the repository, local repository, then the remote repository. 3 layers it will maintain internally itself. Once I place the code in my local repository, in my working area, the code will be moved to the staging area like this. this is identified automatically by saying, hey, Irfan, you added this many lines of code, it seems, including some blank spaces, you added this many lines of code. Like, who is identifying that? My GitHub for Windows is identifying the changes what I made in my local working directory. And this guy is asking me to do what? Irfan, you have some work added in this working directory and it is kept in the staging area currently. Do you want to commit this code into the local repository? Like this, he's asking. Do you want to commit this code? No, I'm not going to push this code to the remote. Still, the remote is blank only. If you refresh and see, there is no code over in the remote repository. It is in the local only. Do you want to commit this by saying initial code? And then, code for creating Hive partition tables using HQLs. Like this, I'm just mentioning something over here. And I'm going to say commit to master. That means the local repository has, my Windows machine has a branch called master branch created. See how in internet we have the repository name called Inceptus Repo 2022 and a branch called master created, which is a branch means it says whether it's the final code or an intermediate code. Like I can push the code to master means the code will go to the final. If I push the code to some other branch, I can create as well. I can go to the branch and get it created. A new branch can be created. Development branch or UAT branch I can create. Let's assume this is a final code. I tested everything and everything, the development and everything got completed. I am going to push the code directly to the master. Directly, I'm going to productionize this code. So whoever sees the code in this master branch will consider this is a production ready code. So the production ready code I created, let's assume in that way. I'm going to commit this code by mentioning commit to master. What happens? The code will be committed to my local repository master branch. You can't see the code yet here in the remote repository. Now the code is present where in the local repository master branch it is present. The git commit I executed in the background. I have to execute it as a command either. Basically, people use either command line interface to type it as a command, or they can just click on the button to go and make this happen. Even in any way we can achieve that. Concept remains same. Using the GitHub for desktop, I am just achieving very simply. This git add, git commit I completed. Git add means any code that I placed into this location is added to the staging layer. From the staging, it is being moved to the local repository now. Now the code got moved to the local repository of my computer. Now it is telling Irfan, you want to push the code to get it committed to the GitHub. You want to push this code to the internet. Because you still have it in your local machine. Today you are going to shut down your machine. Tomorrow morning when you come back and see your machine is not operative means then you lose your code. Or you want to push this code to the remote repository where somebody else can go and see this code. Like this, the GitHub is asking me, the GitHub for desktop is asking me. Once I push the code to the remote, the code will be seen over here. Until nobody can see this code. You can't able to see my code until. So I already did a git commit. Now I'm going to do a git push. Either I can use a command to do, or I can just click on this button to do that. Push origin represents what? It is going to push the code to the GitHub. It is going to take the code from my local computer and put it into GitHub repository. Now you can able to see the code here. You guys can access this code from anywhere around this world. If you use my URL, you can go and access this code from anywhere. What you will do? You already have the code over here. What you guys will be doing? You guys will go and open or mention my repository URL. If it is a public repository, you can access my code and you can go and do what? You can go and do a pull. You can go and do a pull of the code. You'll be pulling the code from the origin, from the remote repository. But no changes are found while pulling. I'm not finding any changes. Or let's assume in the other case, like I uploaded the code, right? And you are going to, you can simply download the code. Yes, you can go here and say download a zip file. You can download the code simply. Or you want to download into your local repository. You want to clone this your repository into your local repository, what you will do? You will go and follow the same mechanism. You will open the GitHub desktop for Windows, and you will go and say like, hey, do a cloning of this remote repository code to my local repository. Like this, you will also set up the same kind of repository in your local machine. And you are doing a modification in this code by setting up a local repository in your own machine, in your Windows machine. You are going to set up a local repository, and you are modifying this code by downloading it into your local machine, right? So you are just having some of the lines removed or added or whatever, just some modification you guys are doing. And you are going to say removed unwanted lines. You are doing a code review and you are finding unnecessarily you have kept lot of lines, Irfan, that not looks good. And I removed some of the commented line also. Like this you are just mentioning. So updated the code, removed comments and blank lines. Like this you are going to mention, and you are going to directly commit this into the master branch, or you are going to create a new branch, commit it over there. After Irfan come back tomorrow morning, he's going to look into whether this code is good or not, and he's going to merge it to the master branch. That he can do. But that is not a big deal here. Let's commit directly to the master branch. So I committed, I modified the code, and I uploaded it directly by using the GitHub itself. The internet GitHub itself, I went and modified. This way we do actually. We work by this way also in the organization. Without using the GitHub desktop, without using the command and interface, without using the tools, we can directly go and modify the code. In certain cases like here and there, small modification if you want to do. We are confident enough this code is not going to be get affected. If I remove the comments or if I remove this blank space, we'll go and simply do that without any worries. So now you are going to say what, hey, I just got some code modification happened in the remote repository. I want to get that code over into my local. This code is not as like the code what we have earlier. There is a blank space still exists in this code. I want to get that refreshed code from the remote repository. Now the requirement is something different. We created the code and uploaded. That code got modified. I want to get it downloaded again or pulled again. We pushed the code, the actual code. The code got modified and pushed by somebody else inside the repository. Now I wanted to get that code pulled. So I'm pulling the code from the remote. And I'm going to fetch. There are two operations we are supposed to do. Pull and then fetch. So I got the code fetched. Now you can see this code contains the maybe one line I missed to add, missed to remove, but you have the comments removed, the unwanted lines are removed. You got the, like the up-to-date code into our local. Now I am going to do some modification. I'm just doing some modification here. Like I'm removing the further lines what I had. I'm saving this code. Immediately my GitHub will identify, Irfan, you did all this modification. You want to commit this code back to the master? Yes, I can do that. Updated the code. What changes? Removed all blank lines. And I'm committing to the master. So back and forth, we are pushing the original code, then that code is getting modified by somebody, then I'm pulling the code to the local, then I am modifying, then again I'm pushing the code to my local repository. The code is pushed now. So the code I have modified in my staging, in my working area, I modified it, moved to the staging. From the staging, I am going to move the code to the local repository. I moved the code to the local, I committed the code to the local repository after I modified. Then now I'm going to say what? I do a git push. Earlier I did a git pull. Then I did a git fetch. Now I'm going to say what? Hey, you push the code to the remote repository now again. Now the recent code is kept in the remote repository. This is a cycle what we can create in the organization. Regularly we do this cycle either by using this tool or using command line interface or using PyCharm or using maybe like the web GUI itself, or by using some maybe like Eclipse. Anyway, we can achieve this. The concept remains same. Okay, so we have taken this tool for understanding this concept. Maybe one more concept I'm going to mention here. So you did this activity here. What is this activity? So all the, I mean, like the screenshots I have given here for your quick reference, guys, for your easy reference in a later point of time. The code I just uploaded, committed, everything I did over here for your quick reference. Okay, later if you want to go through and do this, you can do this as well. But let me go back again here. This is the first activity we did. We created a repository, we cloned to a local, we opened the GitHub for desktop. We created a file and added in the staging area in the working directory. From the working directory, then we did a commit to the master in the local repository. Then we pushed that code to the GitHub. This is what the activity what we performed. Now I'm going to talk about the developer modified the code and wanted to share the code into his own branch, some branch, Irfan branch I'm creating, or dev branch I'm creating, and get reviewed and get merged into the master branch by the reviewer. So this will be usually happen in the organization. What I'll do, I'll develop a code. I'll upload the code into the dev branch, and I'll say, hey, code reviewer, can you review the code? Can you test the code once? If everything looks great, you go and push the code to the master branch. We will get it deployed into production later. Like this, I will say. So for that, what I can do, I can either go and create a branch over here. In this repository, I can create a branch. I can go and create a new branch. Create a new branch I can create, like dev branch I can create. Or I can do what? I can create a branch in my desktop tool by going and saying like create a new branch, some branch called development branch. Because this code is not finalized yet. I just only completed the development. So dev branch you create. And the dev branch is not published to the remote repository yet. It is only did in my local. The dev branch is not yet created here, not reflected here yet. So I'm going to say publish this branch to the remote repository. So the branch is getting published. Branch is getting published. So the current dev branch is already published to the GitHub. Create a pull request to propose and collaborate your changes. Just the branch we created. So we can able to see that branch over here, which got created. Master branch, dev branch we got created. We wanted to pull this code from the dev branch and put it into the master branch. That is what they are telling. Hey, Irfan, you want to create a pull request to pull the code from the maybe like the GitHub repository and push it into the master branch, like from the dev to the master branch, you want to pull the code like this, he is asking. So I am going to do that activity now. We are going to do that activity now. So there are two branches we have, dev branch and master branch. So we go to the master branch and see, we have the original code in place. I'm going to say what, hey, I'm just going to develop something over here. I'm changing this code. I'm just pointing to the dev branch. I'm changing this code. Echo. Script completed. Like this, I'm adding something over here. So if you go and see, there is some changes made, and I'm going to upload this code or commit this code to the dev branch, not to the master branch. So the code is changed in the staging area. In the work area, I changed the code. It is being moved to the staging area. Now in the staging area, I'm going to say updated. What updates I have made? Added a echo in the last. Like this, I'm just mentioning something like that. Committing to the dev branch. The dev branch is committed. Now the dev branch does not have this code yet available. I'm in the dev branch. The code is not available in the dev branch yet. You can see here. This is the original code. 6 minutes ago, this code was available, which does not have that echo statement available. There is no echo statement in the last. Now I'm going to say what? Okay, let me upload this code. Push this code to the remote dev branch. So the code is getting pushed. Code is getting pushed. Now it says what, Irfan, the code got pushed with the recent version of in the dev branch. Now you have the recent version of the code in the dev branch. 1 minute ago, this code got regenerated in the dev branch. Like this, you can see here. The master branch has Like I did a code modification and I uploaded the code to my development branch, and I'm informing my other peer, asking Siddharth, can you validate this code? So Siddharth is going and seeing this dev branch where this code is there. He's taking this code and doing some validation or whatever. He's doing a code review or whatever. Then he's going to authorize this, that code review is completed. He's going to give some comments for that. And he's going to do what? He's going to compare with the master branch. Dev had recent push less than a minute ago. In the master branch, we don't have the same code available. The master branch has the outdated code, 7 minutes old code. In the dev branch, we have the recent code. But the recent code has to be first validated. Then it has to be merged to the master. In the development branch, we have the recent code modified by Irfan, reviewed by Siddharth, and Siddharth is going to push that code to the master branch soon after the review is completed. For that, he is going to say, okay, let me do a pull request. Let me do a comparison and the pull request. What does it mean? I'm going to take the code from the dev branch, compare with the master branch, and I'm going to push the code. I'm going to merge the code into the master branch. That means the dev code I'm going to move to the master branch like this. Who is telling? Siddharth is going to say. Siddharth is looking into my code, whatever I did as a changes and all. He's just going through that. Hey, okay, Irfan have added an echo statement in the last. There is no echo statement earlier available. He added an echo statement in the last of the line. Like this, he's understanding. And he's going to say what? Okay, let me create a pull request. Let me go and do a pull request and get this code merged to the whichever the master branch, like this Siddharth is telling. And he's going to add a comment saying like, yes, this code looks great. Or I mean, he's going to add a comment saying like what? Hey, Irfan, the code is not looking good. Or he's going to say like, hey, okay, I mean, I can say require approval from specific reviewers before merging. I can have a strong rule set here saying like, after the review is completed, then only it has to be moved. Some collaborators I can add here. But here we are just simply telling, okay, merge and complete the pull request. Go and merge this code from the development branch to the master branch, like this we are telling. So the reviewer can put a comment over here, like the code has some issues. Like this, he can put a comment and he don't have to do the merge request. Or he's telling the code is good. Proceeding with merge and pull. What is merge and pull? Or pull and merge. I'm going to pull the code from the dev branch and merge it into the master branch. That is what Siddharth is telling by saying what your code looks good, Irfan. I'm going to push this code to the master branch. Confirm the merge. Merge pull request number 1 from Mohammed Irfan dev branch to the master branch. Like this he's telling. After adding these comments and all, he's going and performing the confirmation of the merge. Once he do the confirmation of the merge, he can delete the branch either, or the branch can be retained, not a problem. But you can go and see in this master branch, the new code has been updated. You can see the script completed echo statement is also added. So this code is ready for production. These two are the scenarios what we follow in the organizations regularly, guys. Who is working in GitHub, maybe knowing about this, right? These two scenarios you can understand. But all you have to say in the interview is like what? I use GitHub, I upload my code into GitHub. Using what? Using my desktop for Windows, I mean GitHub for Windows, or command line interface. I have given the command line interface also in the down. Or I use my tool to upload the code into GitHub, like PyCharm I use, or Eclipse I use, or command line interface I use. You can mention anything that you want. Okay, all the way we'll go down. The desktop way we have seen, we have understood the scenario. How can I take the code back and forth? Are you with me, guys, in this? I've given all the screenshot of what we were doing here. The same thing what we did, compare and pull request. All this we were doing here, right? Compare the code and merge to master. All this I just mentioned here, merge pull request. I mean, like you can delete the branch if you want, or you can just leave it. Clear, guys? Very clear. The next part is all about what? Next part is, I don't want to use the tool like GitHub for desktop and all. Desktop GitHub and all I'm not going to use. I'm going to use something else. What? I'm going to use my PyCharm tool itself. Once I completed the code in my PyCharm, because this is a HQL file I created like just like a script actually like this. But I have a PyCharm code hardly developed. It got completed in my PyCharm environment itself. I want to make my PyCharm speaks with GitHub. This is end-to-end lifecycle we are talking. We are getting the documentation in the Confluence. We are getting the Jira tickets assigned to me to develop a PyCharm application to read some data from some data storage layer and put it into our big data platform. I developed a PyCharm application for completing that work. Now, the PyCharm that I have in Windows or in Linux, whichever it is fine. I don't bother. PyCharm is a tool. That's it. It's just a user interface tool where we can go and create your Python applications or Spark applications. PySpark application or Python applications you can create in the PyCharm. What I am going to do with the tool? I am going to make my tool PyCharm speaks with GitHub. Rather than using my desktop GitHub for Windows or command line interface for GitHub, I'm going to use PyCharm. How can we use? Right? Go and get the tokens from github.com to add that into my PyCharm. See, there is something called, we will go and get the internet connectivity, the password and the authentication, or SSH and GPG keys and all we have, where we'll have the security. Please, I think I got some issues in my internet and it got restarted. I'm not sure where, where it got stopped. Okay, 1 second. Security, okay. So I will go to my GitHub. Thanks for that, Siddharth. So I'll go to my GitHub and I think I'm able to share my screen. Okay, 1 second. So over here in this GitHub layer, I can have the code security and analysis or something like that we have over here, where okay, tokens. I'll go here into the settings, developer settings, I'll go and I can have a token created here. I can create a token. This token I will copy and use it for my PyCharm to get connected. So I'll open my PyCharm. PyCharm for Windows I installed. The documentation for installing PyCharm in your Windows, I will share you guys today, along with this documentation also, the Git documentation also, what I used, the CICD documentation also. Now we have some code developed in PyCharm. This code we wanted to push to GitHub. What I'll do, I'll go to the VCS, I'll go to the Git, I'll connect with the Git. So I'll go to the maybe like I'll go and refer the Git. Like I'll go to the file settings, version control, GitHub, choose the token option to enter the token. So file settings is the once for all activity we are supposed to do. GitHub, and I'll just choose what user I wanted to get add. I can add a user to the github.com. What is the login mohammedirfan@gmail.com or whatever I'll mention. The username and the password I'll copy the token. The token I'll paste here. Or use token I'll mention here and I'll paste the token. I'll paste the token here. What I copied from here. This is the one activity what we are supposed to do. We have to create a token. This token we have to paste here. That is, that's how they are identifying us. Some of the tools and all requires a token to be added. So first activity is I'm going and making my PyCharm speak with GitHub without any password asked, because I already registered the token here. So my PyCharm will talk with GitHub going forward. By going to the file settings, I'll go to the GitHub in the version control side, and I can go and connect to my GitHub repository or GitHub system using my username and password. My work is done. That is the first activity we are doing. Then we are going to move our code or push our code to the GitHub. But before that, we have to first share the project to the GitHub. That means I have a project created in my local PyCharm environment. I created a project called PySpark project 2022 or something like that. So what first I had to do is I had to go to VCS. I had to go to, I had to go to Git, and I had to say, push my project to the GitHub first of all. The first activity I had to do is I had to push my project to the GitHub. So update project I'm just doing. The first activity. Or share the project to the GitHub. Import into version control. Import into version control. Share the project on the GitHub. I have to mention this option. So the very first activity is I'm connecting with GitHub. Then I'm going to VCS and I'm going to import into version control. And I'm going to say create either a new repository, or I created one project. I want to push this entire project code into GitHub. Like this I can tell. So share the project to the GitHub. I can say like that. Share anyway, whichever. I'm going to share my project with a repository name called Spark Project 2022 or whatever. I'm going to share this project to the remote repository. Maybe 2023 I'm going to mention, something like that. GitHub repo. The repository name is, I'm just creating like this with a GitHub repository. I'm just going to create this. So automatically what happens in my GitHub repository, you can able to see a new repo got created. 34 repository we earlier had. Now we got a new repo created, which contains all my code added. The package, the Spark SQL code or the Python code, whatever we developed right in our local machine, in our local PyCharm environment got added. This is the first activity we are doing by going to the VCS, import into version control, share project onto the GitHub. The first activity I did I created a local project and I shared that to the GitHub repository. This is the first activity we did. Inside this project, I have packages. The packages contains the code. Now I can modify this code over here. What I'm doing, I'm just taking some of the code base and all, right? I'm just doing some activity over here. I'm just adding some code over here and saving. Now what I can do a git push. So in the version control system, I can go and say what? Commit. What we did in the GitHub for desktop. I can commit the code from my staging layer to the local repository. I committed the code. So it is telling Irfan, the old code does not has show of to. This new code contains that show of to. Do you want to commit? Yes, I want to commit. What commit? Added the show of to in the last. Something like this I'm doing. What changes I made, I'm just giving that. This is the code that got modified. I'm going to commit it to the remote repository now. I'm just committing. I mean, it is telling like some control F characters are there in the code. Fine, fix and commit. I did a commit now. The commit of code is completed. Now I'm going to say what? Do a git push. I committed the code in my local repository. Now I'm going to push this code to the remote repository. This code does not contains the particular show of to. Now I'm going to say what? Okay, go to the VCS, do a git push to push the code to the remote repository. Now the code got pushed to the remote repository. The usual thing what we did in the desktop tool. I did the same thing using my whatever the PyCharm. Clear, team? Able to get it? So how can I push my code from the PyCharm directly to the GitHub is the one what we are discussing. Or somebody have taken this code, right, and modified this code, right? This modification has to be reflected into our environment. So they are pushing the code into the master branch, or they are creating a new branch and getting it pushed. I can go and change the branch and get it done. So the code is changed by the other person. By any one of you, this code got changed. We are using custom packages and jars and all in our PySpark code. Should we move those jars as well to the GitHub to move into the prod environment? Yes, obviously. In the GitHub, it will move only the code. The jars, what we are developing, right, we know we'll keep it in some HDFS location or in the GCS location or in the S3 location, and we refer that in our code while we submit. You got the point? The jar what we created here will not be moved. If you want to move, you can move it by using your commands, like not from the PyCharm environment. This PyCharm is for moving your source code. The actual source code will be moved. Got the point? Okay.
Sorry, not from the PyCharm. I am asking. Like we were doing that using our local repository and.
Okay, got you. Yeah. See, we just created our maybe like zip file and all, right? You can keep either the zip file into the GitHub repository. So every code will be bundled together, and we can get that code pulled to the production and we can implement it. Or we can keep this heavyweight jars and all in a, in a common file system, so everybody can use. You got the point?
Okay, got it. Yeah.
So if you have a dependent code, like for example, if I have a dependent code here in a different package, I'll push that together into the GitHub repository itself. But if I have some additional jars and all supposed to be added, you remember, the jars will be kept in the G drive. Zip file or jars and all, if I created, that will be kept in the G drive, and that will be used from the, not from the G drive, from the GCS location or from the HDFS location or from the S3 location. Got it?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so we still have this code over here. I'm going to do what? I just got this code modified in the remote repository. I'm going to get it into my local. What I have to do? I have to go and do a git pull. Git fetch and git pull I can do, or git pull will directly pull the code from the master to our branch. I can just bring. So this is refreshed now with a new code. Right, guys? So pretty direct. You can either mention, I upload the code from my our this thing, our PyCharm tool, or I'll do this activity from my from using my desktop tool also. Or you can use Eclipse also the same way. I have given even for Eclipse also how to do that in the down. So how to pull the code from GitHub I mentioned here. Whatever I have shown you guys just now, I have did all this over here. And I want to go to Jenkins before we go to maybe the other items, something like GitHub for Git command line interface commands. I want to share you guys. And Git with the Eclipse integration. If you are going to develop a Scala code using Eclipse, Scala Spark using Eclipse. Eclipse also has the same concepts of integrating with GitHub repository and upload your code to the GitHub repository. We can do the same activity in the Eclipse also. Branches you can choose, upload the code, download the code, everything you can do. Push or pull the code. Concept remains same. Commit, push, pull, fetch, merge, all the concept remains same. That concept you will be seeing even in the command line interface also. In the command line also, we can issue all the concepts. Same concept of what we are seeing here. We are going to see over here also. Like I'm going to set up my Git for Windows, Git for Linux, Git for Windows, Git command line interface I'm going to install. I'm going to install the Git in my Linux machine or in my Windows machine. And I'm going to set up the username and all the information. Then I'm going to clone the particular repository into my GitHub local, into my local environment. Then I'm going to pull the code or push the code as per my need. After modification, I can push the code by using command and interface I can do as well. No need of the desktop tool, no need of the PyCharm tool, no need of the Eclipse tool. Right? So what are all the way we are interacting with GitHub is through the console we can interact. We can go to the console and play all these activities over there. So I am showing more interest in GitHub because GitHub will be used by our developers other than anything else. I can go and directly modify the code here, add a file here, download a file here, upload a file or download a file here, or I can go and modify the code here. Anything I can do directly as well. Or I can go and do it through the command line interface, or I can do it through the Git for desktop, or I can do it through PyCharm, or I can do it through Eclipse. Any tools we can use to do this activity. Now I'm going to talk about how can we take this code, whatever we developed in the GitHub, to the production platform, or how do we do all these activities, the end-to-end CICD activity, the continuous integration and the continuous deployment activity using a tool called Jenkins. Again, I'm speaking, the scope of this Jenkins is not in our hand entirely. The scope is in the hand of whom? This will be done by the data engineers will be handling this Git repository management. But this Jenkins activity will be done by whom? The DevOps people. It's not in our hand, but knowing about this Jenkins is not going to be harm, right? So DevOps engineers will do this activity. The DevOps, I can say like in my team, I have one DevOps engineer, or this, maybe like our DevOps team will take care of creating the Jenkins pipeline for deploying our code into production. Like this, the DevOps team will take care of doing this work, not us. But however, what is Jenkins, right? Everybody has that question, right? What is this Jenkins? Jenkins is nothing but a CICD tool. It is used for taking the code from the GitHub repository, what we committed. So we are seeing the connectivity, guys. Confluence, Jira, Git, Jenkins. Bitbucket is another tool like Git, Maran. Bitbucket is nothing but the advancement of Git, right? If you put Git versus Bitbucket versus GitHub versus GitLab, these four are same kind of tools. One person work in one tool can work in another tool very easily. Somebody have compared it, it seems. All are kind of the same kind of systems together, altogether. You see about Bitbucket, the Bitbucket is again a tool which was created by some set of people. like in the Atlassian only. You have seen the Git is managed by the company. The founder of GitHub is whom you know, the Linus Torvald, the founder of Linux, right? That guy is the founder of this GitHub. Whereas this Bitbucket is being managed by the Atlassian software system, like what we were using, right? Our this thing and all. It's I mean, like the service didn't support Git-based version control up to 2011. Then later, they were having an integration with the GitHub. The GitHub kind of environment we can directly use. Okay. Originally, it was not straightforward as GitHub. Then later they modified it. Right. GitLab is also an alternative for GitHub and Bitbucket, right? Where this has been managed by, or this has been having some more features added or reduced, but we can't use all these tools because these are all paid. That's the reason we are going with GitHub. And GitHub is widely used in the market. Even we use both GitHub and GitLab because one project we use GitHub, one company which we purchased, Yahoo, was using GitLab, and our native company uses GitHub. We don't use Bitbucket. Okay, but Bitbucket is being used even by my friend's company and all. It varies actually. Okay, but it's one among the other two, nothing else other than that. Okay, the Jenkins. What is this tool is all about? See, we are going to get our code pushed into GitHub repository. Our work is completed over there. If somebody is going to maybe like validate my code, he's going to do a pull and merge of my code into the master branch. Once that work is completed, once the final code is uploaded into the master branch, I can have some pipeline scheduled to run or created to poll and run on top of my code, which has to be taken. So I can just create a pipeline actually Jenkins CICD environment. I can go and say what? Hey, Jenkins, can you go and help me take the code, whatever the code that got committed, can you build that code? Can you test that code? Can you stage that code into the next level and deploy it into production? Like this, I can tell to the Jenkins. I can ask Jenkins to do a continuous development and the continuous delivery or continuous integration and the deployment or a delivery. CICD, I can ask Jenkins to do. So the code is committed to the GitHub. The Jenkins will take that code and get it committed. I mean, whatever the code that got committed will be built, will be tested, will be staged, and will be deployed. So I'm going to show you guys the stages in another 15 minutes of time. So download the Jenkins and Java 11 from this URLs. Jenkins can be downloaded, the recent version from this URL. Java can be downloaded with this recent version. And all we have to just do is install the Jenkins, and it will ask me to refer the Java location. I can refer the Java location while installing. Nothing else I have to do here. I just have to install the Jenkins software. You can easily configure Jenkins. And you have to go and take the initial administration password from this location, right? Get the initial login password of Jenkins from the below location. Download Jenkins software, download the Java 11 version. The Java 11 will be supported by the latest Jenkins. We can't use Java 8. In our computer, we have Java 8. So I downloaded Java 11 and installed in a different location. Okay, that Java 11 version I'm going to use. Java 11 we have here, JDK 11. JDK 1.8 also we have here. JDK 1.8 is used by our PyCharm program and all. Java 11 is being used by our Jenkins. So I got the Jenkins installed. Once the Jenkins is installed, we can get the Jenkins service started in any one of this port number. I got it started in the 8082 port number. So I'm going to log in into the Jenkins now. I logged into the Jenkins. So it is not asking me to enter the username and password because I have already entered and logged in admin, and the password will be kept in this location provided by my, this location will be already given to you by at the time when you install Jenkins itself. I can go and get that password over here. The password file I can open. This is my password file. So I logged in project or a pipeline, a freestyle project or a pipeline, and I can go and get my pipeline executed or orchestrated once in a while. Report, get any, I mean, merge happened in my, or any push happened in my Git master branch has to be pulled, checked out from the Git. The code has to be checked out from the Git, has to be executed, and has to be pushed to the production. So we can create a pipeline for doing that. So all we can do is go to the pipeline and create the pipeline. But before we create the pipeline, we sure while installing GitHub, I mean plugins. Basically, the plugins such as Git plugin, pipeline plugin, or Google Workflow Manager plugin, or AWS Code Commit plugin, like all the plugins we can add with whatever the email extension. I want to send out an mail to somebody. I create a panel, do some sort of manage Jenkins, and I have to go and add the plugins, what are all already installed, what are all available as an updates, everything I can add here. So in this one, if you want to do a Maven integration, I want to pull the code from, my from the Scala code or the Java code from the Eclipse IDE, from the GitHub repository, which was uploaded by the Eclipse. So developer developed the code in Eclipse. He uploaded the code into GitHub. From the GitHub, the Jenkins is going to pull the code, and it is going to build the code by running a Maven build. We do a Maven build, right? Create a jar by doing a Maven install, right? That Maven install can be done by Jenkins. The Jenkins is an automation tool. Oh, sorry guys, my video is tracking. Okay, 1 second. I'll connect with one another internet, guys. Okay, wait for a while. So, are you able to hear me now, team? Actually, I got 2 connections, internet connections, and I mean I was not fulfilled with the second connection I got also, because of my router is bit more, it's in a longer distance than my computer. So what I did, I purchased a Wi-Fi extender. Maybe if you guys have some problem in having the Wi-Fi connection reached to your location where you are sitting, maybe you can put a Wi-Fi extender, guys. That Wi-Fi extender is playing very well actually. But this internet, whatever I'm having, the Hathway connection has been lost some time ago. So that's the reason I switched to ACT some time ago. But the ACT is not having an extension. So I'm using an extension to connect here. With this extension, there is no problem occurring. It is very clear. Okay, just for your information. Okay, team. So we have a lot of plugins available to get integrated with Jenkins, which is the work done by these people, the DEVOPS people basically. So I want to go and deploy the code into AWS. So they are having AWS pipeline steps. They are allowing us to create. They are allowing us to create an AWS EC2 instance. They are allowing us to upload the files into S3 bucket with the help of Jenkins. Okay, I'll just talk about it. Okay, sorry. So I can go and log into the Jenkins by using the admin as a user, and the password I can get it from the location what I shared to you guys. I can just, the location I have shared over here for the password, where the password resides. Okay, fine. After installation is completed, you have to go and open the browser with 8022. And then it will ask what? Then it will ask for us to go and select the suggested plugins. So default plugins, you can just ask him to go and install. Install suggested plugins. It will install suggested plugins such as pipeline, Git. All these plugins should be installed automatically. But you can add more plugins later. These are all the suggested plugins, like the Git, LDAP integration or SSH, email extension, GitHub branch sources or pipeline. All these are some additional plugins added by default. But in addition to this pipeline, if you want to add more plugins, you can go to the dashboard. You can go to the dashboard. You can go to the manage Jenkins. You can add more plugins if you want. This plugin shows you what you know. You can go and connect with any systems to play around. This is the work of whom? This is the work of our, the DEVOPS people. Like I want to push the my dependency jars and all into an S3 bucket. Like one of you are asking, Vinod was asking. I want to push all my zip file, all the dependency code and all into a S3 bucket. I can create a pipeline by adding this, whatever the maybe like a plugin, or I want to connect with Google. I want to connect with Google login, or Google Container Registry, GCS, Docker container I want to launch, Google Compute Engine I want to launch, Google Kubernetes Engine I want to go and connect, Google Cloud Build. The code can be built in the cloud, or Google Repository Manager, Google Analytics I want to connect. Like I can connect with different Google products as well, or Microsoft products as well. I can connect. Or what are the installed plugins I have here? My Amazon Web Service SDK installation. I did a couple of AWS and the Google related plugins also over here. Like this is for the deployment actually. Google Deployment Manager, Jenkins plugin. This plugin provides you to create and delete Google Cloud Platform resources using Google Cloud Deployment Manager using Jenkins job. We can create a Jenkins job to say what? Go and talk to Google and create a data proc cluster. Get the job deployed. Like you can integrate with the Google Cloud Platform using this deployment manager, Jenkins plugin. We have to go and we have to create first of all the deployment manager template, and I have to add it over here. Like this. This is the work of the DevOps people to go and integrate. Okay. I'm going to do one thing here. One second, guys. Okay, I'm going to do one thing here. I'm going to create a pipeline, which can be scheduled to run once in a while, or which can be triggered to run once the code is uploaded into GitHub. Anything we can do. So I'm going to create a pipeline by mentioning inceptors pipeline one. I'm creating like this. We can create a project or a pipeline to directly interact. I'm creating a pipeline. In this pipeline, what we are going to do is we are going to do these activities. What activity we are going to do? We are going to bring the code which got committed in the GitHub repository. We are going to build that code. We are going to test that code, and we are going to deploy that code. Maybe deployment I'm not going to show because we have to integrate it with some cloud or some other platform. Maybe I'll show you guys how to deploy this code in the Windows server, not in the cloud server for now. So I'm going to do a couple of activities here. I'm going to do what? First of all, the checkout from Git. Then build the code. Then test or build and test. I'm just doing both activities. Build and test the code. Then or build the code and test. We will do separately. Build the code, test the code. Running it in Windows. running in Windows Server. Like this, we are going to do the activities using the Jenkins pipeline creation. So you can add the GitHub project over here, or we can go and add it as a, see, we can directly click on the GitHub project where URL of the GitHub project URL we can mention here, or we can go and create it as a script actually, as a pipeline script we can create. There are two options here. Pipeline script or the pipeline script from the SCM. SCM means source code management tool. I'm going to create a plain pipeline script where we can enable everything. This pipeline script from the SCM is going to only enable us to go and read the code from the GitHub. It's directly meant for reading the code from GitHub. I'm going to create a common pipeline. So what we did here is we just went and we are creating a pipeline to go and pull the code from GitHub, get it built and get it executed in our Windows server. This is what we are doing right now. The Jenkins is running in a server where the code has to be deployed. Like this, you can consider. Poll SCM will do what? It will help us keep polling in the, you can create a schedule, like a cron schedule we can put here. Once in 5 seconds, you go and poll for this particular URL where the GitHub is running. And if any code modification happened and pushed means you pull that code and get it deployed. Like this, I can tell. But we are going to manually run this code, or we can do it in another way also. Trigger this code to run on a 5 minutes basis or 10 minutes basis, like a scheduler we can run also. So we'll go and do that activity. So script I'm going to create. Try a scripted pipeline. I'm going to create a scripted pipeline, or I'm going to create a simple pipeline created with a hello world. So what I'm going to do here is stage 1, which is nothing but check out the code from checkout. Like this I'm doing. So what is that echo statement says? Check out the code from Git. For that, what I'm supposed to do, I have to use the pipeline syntax for doing that. I have to click on this pipeline syntax, go to the pipeline syntax creator, where I can go and say, hey, I want to do a checkout from a version control. I can choose a checkout from the version control. What version control? GitHub. What is the repository URL I want to look for the checkout? I'm going to do a checkout of a Python code maybe. Let's do a Python code checkout. We have a simple code over here for a quick understanding. Some code I have over here. Python script completed successfully, or some code I have over here. So I'm going to check out the code from this Python repository. I'm copying this code URL, the HTTP URL I'm copying. I'm going to mention here, copy that repository URL. Done. Maybe credentials, if you want to add, you can add. If it is a private repository, it's a public repository, so I can get the code, not a problem. Which branch? Master branch. You can mention the branch also if you want. Master branch is the default branch. Done. So I'm going to create a pipeline script over here, which script can be copied over here and pasted by saying, I want to just get this code checkout happen. This is a script builder, what is being provided by the Jenkins. I can use this script builder to do that. Then I'm going to create the second stage. Stage 1, 2, 3, 4, like this, we can create the stages basically. The stage number 2 is going to say what? Code has been checked out, right? Do the build of the code. Or do the test of the code. Execute the code. Like this, I'm going to do. Maybe check out and execute we can do, and we can close the session. So test the code by deploying or by running in the Windows machine. The build is applicable in which situation, you know? If the code has to be built with the help of some Maven or some Gradle kind of package building tool. But we don't require a build here. We just have to check out and test it to run. So how we are going to test it? I want to test and see whether this code works fine or not. I'm going back to this snippet generator, and I'm going to look for Maybe we can create the different activities here. Mail generation we can do. All this we can do. But just I'm going to run it in not in a Linux box. Maybe you can run it as a shell script. You can run it as a shell script. SH script you can run. I'm going to submit it in a Windows machine. Windows batch script I'm going to run because I have my Windows server over here. So I'm going to run it as a Windows batch script. So what code I want to run as a Windows batch script? The batch script name is, I have it over here as the code wdwe .py. I'm going to run this code. So it will do what? It will create a batch of this code. So I'm going to copy this batch code over here. That's it. So we are just creating with only two steps created here, two stages created here. We can save this and we can try submitting this and run. Build now. So what is going to happen? The code is going to be pulled from the GitHub. It is going to be get executed in the Windows machine. We can go and see the logs and all over here to understand what is happening. The second stage is failed. We'll go and check that. We can check the logs over here. What happened? It did a git init. So the first print message, checkout of the code from the GitHub is completed. What activity is doing? He's bringing the code from the GitHub to the Jenkins system. Then while it goes and run this code for Windows, it got failed, it seems. Windows batch script got failed. Can't find the Python module. The code is not imported. Inceptus pipeline 1, code wdwe. So Python / code wdwe, I have given a wrong location or what? Let me check. Let me check my other pipeline, what I have. So there are multiple stages I created here. Let me check. Okay, the Python code wdwe is not coming in. Like only I just given just the code wdwe, right? So I have to give this Python because I have to use the Python program to run this, right? So let's go and reconfigure our code. Inceptus pipeline 1, right? I'll go and reconfigure. Go and make this code run with the Python mentioned. That's it. So now it is going to show me the code is brought from the GitHub and it has been executed. The log is showing, yes, Irfan, the code has been executed successfully as by running as a Python code. Like we can create the steps to get it even deployed to the production environment by connecting with Google or any of the tools. Like I just wanted to show you guys on top of this, just to explain like what is this Jenkins. Jenkins is not a big tool to manage, but it is not purely in our scope. That is for your information, right? So I just given all these steps and all for you guys to play around. You can just go and try this out. We can create more number of steps also. Like this, I'm just doing a checkout. Then I'm going to do a build by using the git command, or I'm going to just, like perform some activity either as a shell script or as a batch script, Windows batch script or a shell script I'm running. right? I'm calling the Python program because my Windows contains Python. So it is going to run that code in my Windows machine and getting it executed. Right, team? Any questions in this? You got some idea about Jenkins now, guys? What is Jenkins is all about? It's going to help us orchestrate. You can able to schedule this also to run on a regular basis. You can go to the dashboard. You can schedule it to run as well. You can schedule. We can create a schedule to run also. Right? All the options we have over in this Jenkins. Okay. But again, I'm telling you can least bother. But what you can say is altogether, you know, I push my code to the GitHub. My Jenkins will be polling for this GitHub code from the master branch. Get it, check it out. Take the code from the Jenkins. I mean, from the Git. Get it tested. If any failure in the testing that happens while it executes, it will go and send out a mail to me by using some mail plugins and all what I was showing you guys. You can see the mail plugins over here. Mail extensions we have. Error mail you can just generate. The messages, code failed. Like this, you can add all this in the script, in the steps actually. Like this script itself, we can build actually. The pipeline script itself has some syntaxes and all to build in a custom fashion. Or simply, if you don't want to put all this effort of building the scripts and all, directly you can go and create a simple freestyle project, integrate it with the maybe like a GitHub or somewhere, and you can go and run the code. No worries. Directly you can create a project, integrate with any tool that you want and get the code run. We have that option also available. Give the GitHub repository URL, go and run the code. Nobody's going to stop us. So all the methodologies we have available over here. Right? Build the triggers, like run some script remotely, build periodically, run it once in a while, poll the GitHub repository on a schedule of once in 10 minutes or once in half an hour, whatever I mentioned. And I want to add more steps here. Like this, you can add as well very easily. Right? Here you can see, I can do a post-build action after I complete the pre-build action of running this as a shell script. I'm going to run the Python program as a shell script, sh Python, the script, wdwe, python.py, like this I'm going to run. After this, I can say what? The post-build action, what I can do, you know, after this completion, I want to push the code to the AWS code deploy the application using the AWS code deploy by giving all these configurations mentioned. In which region of AWS I want to deploy, in which S3 bucket location I want to deploy, all this I can mention. So by this way, what will happen? The code, whatever I'm uploading in the GitHub repository, will be polled by the Jenkins, which will take the code, get it, I mean, it will check out the code, get it executed and tested, whether if the code successfully completed running, it will go and send out a completion mail or a failure mail accordingly. The code is successfully completed, it will go and do a post-build activity of deploying the code into AWS platform or into any other platform. This can be used using different tools, like the post-build activity we are performing here, right? It can be used with different tools, like Google related tool, or maybe like Google Cloud Deployer tool, or it can use maybe like what to say, Terraform tool. Like lot of tools are available. Further, this is an extension of the tools actually. I don't want to go to that tool level. Jenkins to Google Cloud Deployer, Jenkins to Terraform for deployment of the code. We don't have to worry. This is the deeper level of our GitHub people, of our DevOps people. So guys, I would strongly recommend you to try this also. Like you can go and configure your GitHub for command line interface, right? You can go and clone the repository into your command line interface. Here I installed Git for Windows, I got it installed. Git command line interface, I got it installed. I can go and do a Git cloning. So I went and did a cloning. So I'm going to run the Git clone of the code from the GitHub repository. The entire code has been imported to my Windows machine into the documents Python location. I can go to the Python location and I can go and set the remote URL as this Git URL. This is my remote URL where I want to push the code or pull the code from. Like this I can set. Then adding the code to the GitHub, like I'm going to create some code base. I'm just having some code added to this location in the name called code.py or code.sh, like this I'm adding. And I just did an add. This is nothing but this activity. I did an add from the working directory. I moved the code to the staging area. From the staging area, I'm going to do a commit. So git commit with some whatever the description I can add and get this code committed to the local repository. So git commit -m with some information I can give. First commit, what we did in the first in our this thing. I'm just doing like this. So git commit on branch master. Your branch is up to date. Oh, I did not do a git add. First I had to do a git add, right? So git add, I'm just doing this code. The documents. So the code got committed. I added the code got committed. Now I can push the code to the master branch by using the git push. So the code got pushed to the master branch. Maybe the username, password, and all I had to mention. So this username and password, we have to use our credentials, what we copied from there. mohammedirfan@gmail.com. Password is going to be the password what we got generated from that token that we generated for other component and all, right? The same thing we can do here. This token is not seems to be working. Okay, team. So I'm just showing you one another way. That's it. Okay. Don't just take it into a too much level, but we have a command line interface options also available to play around. Developer settings. I can go and create the authentication token. Sorry, personal access token. Classic token I can create. So I have to choose some of the options to choose this token. Some of the basic options I have to choose here to create this token. Repo, gist, and org. We have to choose this basic options over here. All the repo options we have to choose. Gist option. We have a gist option, and we have a user with the read.org. We have to choose. Read option we have to choose. Sorry, the read org we have to choose. That's it. These options we have to choose and generate the token. This token is expired in 50 days, so that's the reason. We can copy this token and make use of over here. Oh, why authentication is failing? Okay, somewhere it is failing, guys. It's fine. We are on top of that. I just wanted to show you guys this way also we can able to access the GitHub using the command line interface also. So anyway, it's in your hand. You are going to develop the code. You are going to push the code. You can either use the GitHub for desktop or command line interface, or all are same. The concept you have to understand predominantly. Like any tool you can use. So the Git remote repository information you want to know, everything you can use the commands to achieve. Git fetch, git push, git pull, all the options what we have. Okay. Fine, team. Any questions? I will do one thing, as I told you in the starting of the today's session. This week I will take some time. I'll take my personal time and I will go on maybe like go through with the or generate the video related to the Hive balance part what we have and share you guys as a recording. And apart from that, we will go with the next week the Spark performance tune. Okay, please plan to attend accordingly. Okay, you are getting okay. Fine, team. Any other questions if we have? Yeah. I'm going to share two documents. One is this one, and another one is the PyCharm installation for Windows. I think these two are good actually. Okay, I'll share you this entire document, guys. Oh, right. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. I'll share that. Okay. Yeah. Yes, Manila. You mean this Jenkins pipeline you are talking about? See, basically we have an option to poll for whichever the code that got added newly into the master branch, right? Only that code it will take. Exactly. Yes, it will be taken and get tested and deployed. Yes, not the entire repository. Repository may have a lot of codes, right? Got it? Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. See that. But are you developing this pipeline, Manianda? Yeah. Check-in you do. You run the pipeline. You see the output. You don't create the pipeline, right? Yeah. So that is what happens, right? So you test the pipeline. You go and check the pipeline, or you may get notified through the mail also. You don't have to go and literally check that log and all. Even you can see the pipeline generates the mail triggers and all. You can create over there if any failure occurs. Got it? Yeah. Good, Maninda. Yeah. Will the check-in used to test on only deployment level errors? Will Jenkins use to test only deployment level errors? No, not only the deployment error can Maran. If I have a wrong code in my Jenkins pipeline, right? It will even throw the error with the code what we have. So if I go and have a wrong code in my Python program, it will try to run that program at the time when I am running, right? When I'm just running it as a batch program, it can help me even test my this thing also. Test my code also, not only the maybe like what to say. If I have some wrong code in my GitHub repository, it will throw the error. The Python code having a error in the code base, it will throw that way also the error, right? Got it? Okay. You said one document which will have details of all the other documents. in the path. Can you share that? Yes, I'll show you that. Nag, right? You can see here. If you see our drive, what I shared to all of you guys, I kept one folder called. I kept one folder called something like what to say, important document or something like must visit document, right? I kept in the document. You have even that the entire link of the links. So if you see here, in this location, important documents to share, you see here interview and other related documents, other important URLs, wherever I kept here and there, all the, Cloudera and the Hotenox VM, the project URL, the interview PPT, the SQL related interview questions, scoop related, every content I have kept here, right? It is in our G Drive, right? This is our link, which is kept in our WhatsApp, WhatsApp group description. Okay, are you from Google Meet? You are asking this question? 1 second, yeah. Okay, 1 second. I'll share you this link over in our Google Meet. Okay, this one you can make use. Can't I share? Okay. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll share this link and the other documents also in the WhatsApp, okay, to you guys. Fine. Please remind me if I don't share, I'll share you. Okay. Yeah. Fine. Anything else, team? Venkat, okay, you are getting this error, right? Can you connect tomorrow morning, Venkat, by around 9:15 like that? Is it possible? We have to sit for some time and fix it.
Okay, sure.
Fine, Venkat. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, fine. Thank you. Fine, guys. Any other questions? So we'll meet next week for going with the Spark performance tuning stuffs and the interview questions also. Okay. Plan to attend, guys. Thank you all, team. Otherwise, we'll meet next week. Thank you all. Bye, guys.